For Voldis, gate 1, it's a fairly easy gate. You'll generally be able to clear it within an hour of progging. Take Awakening Pot and Dark Bomb. I think Sacred Charm works when people get trapped. You might want to take that as third battle item apart from Potion. Buckshot can be helpful on Bards. There are some counters that are kind of abrupt, but you don't really need to, so, because even if you fail the counters, like whatever. You could switch out of Buckshot. That's what I generally do. For this one, I took Buckshot. I generally don't. That's weird. You can also take Rhapsody because there are moments where that will be helpful for the team. The thing about Gate 1 is that it hurts a lot. It hurts a lot. So defensive measures on supports can be fairly helpful. The deaths from Gate 1 usually ensue from people getting hit by something and then it suddenly kills them because like the damage is immense. And so for this run, I didn't take Rhapsody. I generally don't take Rhapsody. Unless it's they mine gate 3, maybe gate 4 once I get to that. But yeah, double mark setup works. You could take Stigma instead of Buckshot. Let's dive in. When you meet her, one move that she tends to like to do is the double whip, which knocks people into the air, and it hurts a lot. So in case she's aggroed in this direction, you might want to stand in here as a support and be prepared to tank that so that you don't turn the boss's aggro. And ways you can do that on Bard is definitely using Sonic Vibration or Guardian Tune or even Buckshot. So she doesn't do the double whip in this case. So I started with Heavenly Tune, Guardian Tune, Mark, applying Yearning to everyone, and of course the Identity buff. In this case, she aggroes onto one person. It was me in this case. And after that, she does a shotgun, which hurts a lot. And if someone gets hit by that, the damage spreads from that location. So you want to lock the aggro and then move out, spacebar, or just walk away so that you don't get hit by it. These shotguns, if you get hit, spreads. And like if you're DPS, it hurts omega lot. So basic aggro control there. If you get hit by that, it will knock you into the air. So like move out of it when she does that small jump, or tank it with something like Rhapsody, Rhythm Buckshot, whatnot, Guardian Tune. If you get hit by these yellow telegraphs, you get grabbed by the plants, and for like 5 seconds you can't do anything. Also, it can hurt a lot if you're a support, so you don't die, but DPSs can hurt a lot. So move out of it. It's this that you can get grabbed by, and that like whirls you in, and for 5 seconds you get toyed around by the plants. This one is a paralysis move. She does that for an extended period of time. So like when that happens and DPS are trying to greed the damage regardless, try to shield them, of course. Rhapsody is your friend if you have it. Try to win music it by jumping into her and applying shield to everyone. One thing to note about this gate in general is that she likes to teleport a lot. She just does sudden teleports, and so be prepared to get your Sonic Vibration wasted, or like even the Identity buff might be wasted here and there because she teleports, and like people have to reposition themselves. Yeah, that's the move. And if you get hit by it, she summons a larger donut of projectiles, and if you get hit by that, that hurts a lot and also pushes you into the air. So like if you're standing on the outskirts and you see someone get hit by that and get knocked into the air, from what I know, it only happens if someone gets knocked into the air. But I'm actually not too sure. Sometimes it triggers even if someone does not get knocked, even if they tank it using push immunity. Anyways, if that happens, what you want to do, position yourself, is you see where she jumps to and move out of that spot. I could have like slightly moved out of it and then moved back in so that I don't get hit by the second circle. So while you're like juggling all these things, of course, as a support, your main priority is to keep applying attack buff and apply mark and shielding and all, and then using your identity buffs at the right moment and trying to pair it up with dark bomb is an essential thing to do if you're trying to aim for radiant. In this case, she targets onto someone. In this case, it's the artillerist, and she keeps doing this Borpa spin. And if you get hit by that, it's a process move. So there are certain greedy DPSs that will try to tank while doing damage. If you're the aggro, try to tank it. Stay in position by abusing process immunity moves like Wind of Music and all. If you have Rhapsody, that will allow you to tank the entire thing, so that the aggro and their position does not move too much, so that the other DPSs, if they're Hitmaster, they will be able to do damage, and some ranged back attackers might use their skills there. And then at 85 lines-ish, she teleports to the center, and then she sends out seeds, purple seeds and green seeds. Don't eat the purple seeds, eat the green seeds. At 3 stacks, you get, I think it's a stagger buff. Oh, never mind. Oh, she does a move around 100. Never mind. Forget that. So that was the actual stagger mech. She generally, yeah, that's the move I was talking about. At 100 lines, she moves to the center and she does that. So here it's not too important that you eat the green seeds. Just avoid the purple seeds, because if you take 3 of them, you get trapped in position. And like the green seeds are like whatever. But at 85 lines-ish, she will teleport to the center, and that's the stagger move. So this is an important gauge building mech for supports. So be aware of that. At 85 lines-ish, she ports to the center. So ideally, you've already used up all of your identity buffs. If you have like a 1 bubble left, you might want to use it as a heal here so that you can stack up during the stagger mech. Generally, you'll be able to build at least 2 bubbles. And if you count the extra damage window afterwards, it's like 3 bubbles. It's hard to optimize for this when like the party's pushing this fast, for instance, in this party. And then what you do here is you try to eat up green seeds if possible, and then you do the stagger in the middle. It's not difficult. The only thing you need to be mindful here is not getting hit by the yellow telegraphs, because that, yeah, you get dragged around for like at least 5 seconds, and you can't stagger, and that might result in a stagger, or failing the stagger check. And then after the stagger check happens, you have like a 5-second window. In which case, you might want to consider using your identity buff as a support, or you might build a bit more and use it after the ensuing immunity that she gets, because it's only a 5-second window, and then she goes immune for like 5 seconds. So say you use an identity buff full stack here, you do waste 5 seconds of that, and then she might teleport right after, which means that you might have your team might not be able to profit from that identity buff for longer. She does the paralysis Borpa spin, so in this case, yeah, I'm trying to shield whoever I can. That's the counter move. When she does a fast whirl like that, she targets onto someone and she presents a counter. If it's you and you did bring Rhythm Buckshot, try to counter it. And then after she does the initial counter, if it fails, she dashes towards that direction, and she might give you a second counter. The second counter only happens below 85 lines, so after you've done that stagger mech, from what I know. Rotate heals a lot. If you're on eye level dealing with this, your party will suffer. Now, this is the snowflake mech. I don't know what to call it, but snowflake. There is a safe spot right in between two flowers, and if you like attach yourself close enough to the boss, you don't get hit by the explosions from the flowers like this. But if you're slightly away from it, you get hit and you get knocked, and these do a lot of damage. Good to know as a DPS and a support. This is a free DPS pattern. As long as you're close enough to her. This hurts a lot outside. And you keep being paralyzed, you get pushed outwards, you suffer a lot. And you lose out on that damage window. Here I used Yongmeng in order to tank that jump thing. Well, in this case, I guess, yeah, I was never really sure. But I guess if you get hit by it, then the second move triggers. Sometimes it doesn't, so it's weird. I was never really sure. And then at 47 lines-ish, she starts doing the next mech. She teleports to one of the cardinal positions, and she does 2 dashes. And this is like, yeah, now she teleported. She teleports, and like, meanwhile, you have like these yellow telegraphs happening and the explosive flowers. You have to avoid that. If you're a really greedy support or DPS, you can kind of fit in some skills onto her as she does the dashes. Like, if you're, say, a Surge Blade, you can actually predict where she's going to end up and try to aim the surge onto her as she dashes and lands in position. If you're a support, you can fit in, like, I don't know, Sonatine in the case of Bard to get, like, one skill in. It's not really important, though. Now, and once you're in this 47-line mech, don't hit her. Reflect damage throughout this phase. I've managed to kill myself with 1 sound shock. That's how bad the reflect damage is. And then, very important to note, you can actually build gauge as a support during this phase. So the 4 flowers, the Venus flytraps at the cardinals, once they're awakened, you can actually hit them and get gauge off of them, but they will keep trying to grab you. So here, now it's awakened, and see the yellow telegraph here? If you get grabbed by that, you can't do anything for like an extended almost 10 seconds maybe. 5-10 seconds, something in between. So avoid that and try to get gauge off of that. But make sure not to kill them, because you need them to be alive in order to do this mech properly. So like, you're trying to hit the purple, I mean the pink seeds and get them inside of her. You need 15 stacks in order for this mech to be successful. And meanwhile, there's like yellow seeds that also appear on the map, and one person will be designated with a target on them, and that person will have to lead the yellow telegraph spawning from the Venus flytraps at the cardinals. You have to aim that telegraph into the yellow seeds so that the Venus flytrap eats the yellow seeds. But if the flowers are at 0 HP, they don't give you the telegraph. And if the yellow seeds are not attended to, then they explode, and in a large AoE, people get trapped. So make sure not to kill them. Even support damage is enough to like bring it pretty much down. But try to get as much gauge as you can here. If you're really diligent in this phase, you can build 3 bubbles. And of course, all the while, you get red telegraphs spawning underneath you. So you have to keep avoiding that, the yellow telegraphs. And then if you're dealt with the target, that means that you'll have to do the mech, which means that you won't be able to build gauge. So it's kind of RNG whether you get to build here. Now, in this case, because the Venus flytrap is locked on to the person who has a target, it's not going to do the yellow telegraph thing. So it's like a free gauge building session as long as I avoid these red things. Now, we have managed to build above 15 stacks. And see this blue buff here? This blue buff expires. That's when you want to use a fire skill or a fire grenade on the boss. The moment this buff expires, she doesn't do reflect damage anymore. And if you fit in a fire skill or fire grenade at that exact moment, then she gets neutralized. So she becomes weaker. That's why you want to make sure some DPS brings a fire skill. The way to check that is if you hover over the skill tooltip, anything that says fire damage highlighted is a fire skill. So make sure to call it out. Have people aware to use that fire skill right here. Otherwise, she gets very angry, and for the remaining 47 lines-ish, it's very difficult to deal with. So if you're in charge of using fire grenade, make sure you're aware of this blue buff while you're building gauge or you're dealing with the yellow seed mech and whatnot. Just be aware. At least someone in your party needs to be aware of this buff expiring, and someone has to use fire skill. Ironically, fire bullet is not a fire skill. But yeah, if you've done that correctly, in this case, someone did use fire skill. See, everything burns. She burns. The flowers burn. The Venus flytraps burn. And she's weaker. If you fail to do this, her attacks are faster and they're pretty fierce. So now from then on, it's you just DPS her down to 0 lines, nothing more. That's a counter. And then from then on, someone gets targeted, and from time to time, a Venus flytrap will try to send one of those yellow telegraphs into that person. So just be aware if you're the target, whether a Venus flytrap is targeting you. And the same thing, just build gauge, apply attack buffs. Those red telegraphs also knock you into the air. Yellow telegraphs grab you. Trying to keep up attack buff. Building a 3 bubble. That's the Medusa mech. After a few seconds, she does a Medusa attack, so look away from her. Otherwise, everyone gets paralyzed. Even if one person looks at it, everyone, because she spawns a big yellow dust fog and it paralyzes people. Now, this is very fast. It's because everyone's overgeared in this party, so we finished it with like 3 minutes, 40 seconds remaining. But if you're doing this on eye level without much expertise, you'll be very much left with no time. So, as a support, the important things that you need to do is to protect your party, shielding, because everything hurts in this raid, in this gate. You need to shield them appropriately, keep providing them with opportune identity buffs. Be aware of the moments when she phases. So at 85 lines-ish and 47 lines-ish, she does the phases. So make sure you toss any bubbles that you have remaining before that so that you can build during those phases. And make sure you know how to build gauge during the mechs. And always try to couple your identity buff usages with dark bombs, and try to use Awakening Pot whenever you see the opportunity. Like a good opportunity is when she gets staggered, because she does have an internal stagger bar. Or not internal, just stagger bar. Like when you see the stagger bar getting low, try to prepare at least a 2 bubble on board for that. In this case, I did manage to get a 3 bubble in. I used it. Oh, she teleported, but she's gonna get Staggered here, right? Yep. And 12 lines remaining means GG with this geared of a party. Oh, and card set wise, people generally just go for LOS and Cliffs. Technically, I think you can. Maybe you have a plan set might be better, along with Deep Dive. I'll have to go check if you actually get damage mitigated from her attacks if you do that. Do you need a certain amount of that fire damage? No, anything that is fire, just put that in. Anything fire. You don't need like a bunch of damage, just anything. How many skills are you using Walthrune? In this setup, it's 1, 2, 3. 3. Now, let's look at the same thing on Artists. In this case, this is the whip attack. And you want to tank that with a push immunity attack. If you get knocked, you lose the window and it hurts a lot. Make sure that you're aware of the possibility of her doing the whip when she begins. It's one of the moves that she likes to begin with. Just make sure to tank it with spacebar or some push immune ability. And she does it twice. So the aggroed person has to be aware that there's an ensuing pattern. This is the Borpa spin. So on Artist, what you do is you hop. You just hop inside. So any DPS who's trying to greed for it can keep doing damage while using process immunities and tank the hits. Move out of the yellow telegraph. She does another Borpa spin. On Artist, be aware that your carpet does not have process immunity. So when you're casting that, make sure you don't get hit by that. Just basic stuff. And yeah, again, she teleports a lot. So be aware. I mean, in this case, it was the 85 line mech. But yeah, here, it's a big gauge building pattern, as I said. So if you have bubbles, use them beforehand. If you have any left, you can use a heal bubble on Artist. Try to get as many green seeds as you can. You don't need to like over focus on it though. And then do stagger on it while trying not to get grabbed by the yellow telegraphs. And because Artist, the buff is 10 seconds, it's not as long as Bards anyways, and it's easy to stack up. Just use the identity buff. For this, you have like a 5-second window. And then she goes immune, and she does a push, so try to tank it or like just get hit, whatever. Again, use Hopper whenever that happens if you have it available. And those plants on the ground, those hands, if you go near them, they grab you, so don't go near them. Here, I'm standing in between the flowers, the explosive flowers, to not get knocked into the air. This is the counter move, and the way you discern the real one is the real one will have the cliff sign on it. So, easy way to discern. So 4 clones appear, and the real one that will do the counter has the cliff on it. Ideal time to use identity buffs and attack buffs. That's the shotgun, so avoid being in the front after she locks in. That's the 47 line phasing. Just avoid flower petals exploding. Those can actually kill you even on support. It hurts a lot, so be careful. In this case, I'm the aggro target, so I'm trying to build gate. Oh, I got grabbed. Rip. I greeted too hard. So yeah, this is what happened. This is good. This is good because I can show you what happens if you get grabbed by the yellow thing. This is what happens. And there's only one person that gets targeted. So there will be yellow explosive seeds. This is the problem with artists. Her attack motions have such delays that sometimes that happens. And then, yeah, the blue buff expired, so someone has to use fire skill there. Right? Someone did use. If you get... if the yellow petals explode because they're not dealt with, this is what happens. Like, they explode into yellow fog, and if someone is standing in them, they get trapped like this. As you can see, she likes to teleport a lot. So be prepared to have your puddle screwed over. She teleports again. This is a free DPS mech though. Yellow telegraph spawning. It's a bit hectic. There's a lot going around. But once you get used to it, it's very easy. Counter. I still have my identity buff going on, so I'm not using it right away. After using the awakening, I'm waiting. And then I use it there after it expires. I keep applying attack buff opportunely. And then she teleports again. That's the knock pattern. But like in these cases, it's hard to react to because it's very quick. So you just have to suck it up and use your recovery. And that's how you get 31%. Oh, that was with Saint, Lustboy, and Foss. I won't have to wipe out the nicknames then. Nice. Yeah, that's what Radiant gameplay looks like. For Paladin, you can take 2 blue skills. You can take 1 blue skill. It doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah, gate 1. So in the case of Paladin, you don't have a push immunity skill. You only have your identity or awakening or spacebar. So in case she does the whip attack, just be ready to generally use your spacebar, I guess. So I enter, use mark and attack buff and identity, and someone tossed the dark bomb, so I didn't. It's really fast already, almost at 100 lines. I could have spacebarred there if it wasn't on cooldown. Here, what you can do as Paladin is definitely use Godsend Law on the center as people try to tank it and do damage. And 100 line phase. Oh, never mind. She teleported and did a spray. If she does teleporting and does not go to one of the cardinal positions, that means she's doing a spray. So avoid getting hit in the front. Go to her side or back. And I follow up with an awakening. That was the 100 line phase to the center. You can still keep doing damage, of course. Avoid the yellow telegraphs. She does a shotgun. Go behind or on her side. That's the free DPS. Window, shotgun on the front. Gunlancer decided to tank everything. That's a counter. Notice how I immediately reacted to that counter motion and tried to go to her front. Although it was Albert who countered. It's Albert on the demonic. And that's another spray. When she does a back jump like that, it's another spray. So don't be in her front. 80 line phase. Time to build gauge. Try to get green seeds if you can. Don't try to greed for them to the point of getting hit by the yellow telegraphs, of course. See how the Gun Lancer is being patient, trying to get in? It's important not to get grabbed, first and foremost. And then the stagger happens. In this case, I didn't use the identity buff. I waited for the phase to happen, the immunity to happen first. And then I'm looking probably... Okay, I use it right away. Because sometimes she does teleport, so maybe it's better to like watch the move first. We're sitting in Gun Lancer Awakening, so we didn't need to like move away from it. Although it's nice to shield if you can. The explosive flower mech, stand in between flowers. Awakening news after. And then, as you can see, the real one has cliff on it. The cliff mark on it, right here. So that's the tell. We're at 65 lines. This is going really fast because everyone's overgeared, but of course it will take way longer when you're doing it without elixirs. AT got grabbed. So when you're sitting in one of the corners, make sure to avoid getting grabbed by the yellow telegraph thing. So when you're DPSing like that as an entropy class, or if you're like a support and you're like positioning yourself in one of the corners, be sure to avoid the yellow telegraph line. See, I'll show it again. So in this case here, right here. Yeah, you just have to expect it and move out of it before committing to attacks. You can tank it with push immunity, but on Paladin you don't have that option, so just move out of it. And we're at 53. Oh, I was late with the counter. And yeah, that was a good example. If the first counter fails, she does a follow-up counter like that. But she changes the direction. So she either does it left or right. So try to be standing in one of the positions so that you can counter her the second time if you have a counter available. I didn't. I just moved out. And see how I was targeted? And I noticed that the yellow telegraph was following me. Another one came too. So be prepared to dodge those. Even if it's not you, the target, if it's someone else, the yellow telegraph will follow that person. So be sure to avoid that. It explodes on encounter of the first person, even if it's not the target. Maybe it's a good idea to try to intercept it before it reaches the main crew. Shotgun. See someone died there? And see how this Gun Lancer tried to tank it, and it hurt a lot? This is what happens, and this is an overgeared party probably. That was 80k. Good example of what not to do. Everything in this raid gate hurts. Not just this gate in general, but this gate especially hurts more than you think. I'm trying to build gauge and see how I sidestep the yellow telegraph thing. We have one man down, so I focus a bit more on the pink petals first before trying to build gauge. Because you have to reach the quota of 15. The Gun Lancer masterfully targets the telegraph into the yellow seeds there. Oh, another one spawned while I was trying to build gauge. That's what happens when you get grabbed by the red telegraphs. Now I start going in as soon as the buff ends. The green buff, the blue buff expires, which means the retaliation is over, and you can go attack it. And someone did use fire grenade or fire skill, so now it's neutralized. That's the jump. Space barring in just in case someone got hit. Nobody got hit, so she didn't do the follow-up. She got staggered, so great opportunity to fit in that identity buff and dark bomb if possible. If you get hit by that trailing move, she does a follow-up too. This one. If someone gets hit by that, and generally they do, and she does a follow-up, so be sure to not be too far away from her. Stick to her if possible. This free DPS pattern. Counter. Easy to spot, the real one. Shotgun. That was taunted by Gunlancer. Now, one thing that makes Gunlancer insane in Voldaik in general is, like, apart from Gate 2, everything is tauntable. And then the other part about what makes Gunlancer insane is that, yeah, stagger, destruction counter gets rewarded heavily in all gates of Voldaik, pretty much. Ah, is the struggle with Paladin? Not a lot of push immunity. Well, no push immunity, actually, on skills. Attack buff. This is good because we have one man down, so it's closer to the speed at which you guys will be pushing. Because we benefit so hard from elixirs, and I think some members might have transcendence too. They got grabbed here again. Like when you're sitting in those Venus flytraps, you can get grabbed. So here you see this guy trying to attack from the back, and they get grabbed. Be aware of that constantly, even as a support, because sometimes you'll be standing in that position. Applying God Sent Law on the Gunlancer so that he doesn't lose too much of his shield gauge. And those Venus Flytrap yellow telegraphs as well. It's kind of a hectic raid when you do it at first when you're not used to it, because there's so much going on. Like the Venus Flytraps, the yellow telegraphs that spawn. And if you do fail to fit in a fire skill or fire grenade at 45 lines, it's just better to re. You can do it, but it's likely that you will just fail the mech from like someone dying or like, yeah, it's tough. Oh, that was Saint. So yeah, Gate 1, there's not a lot to discuss, so I did a light commentary. Gate 1 will be easy enough. Just yeah, know how to build gauge, abuse the gauge windows during the stagger patterns at 47 lines and 87 lines ish, and then be familiar with the patterns if possible. Now, Gate 2 is probably the hardest gate out of the 4. The reason being is that whenever you consume Lachesis' blood, which he spawns quite often, you get an immense, I think it's 75% cooldown reduction buff. It's either 70 or 75. Anyways, huge cooldown reduction buff and mana gain buff. At the cost of, if you get hit by anything from Lachesis, you drop down to 10% HP. And because of this very risky, high risk, high reward nature of the gate, a lot of people end up dying. So you'll constantly have to until like you have that magical run when nobody dies. And then you go to the second part of Gates 2, which is also hurts a lot because you have this stacking buff that also makes you more vulnerable while you also do more damage. So the entire Gate 2, the theme is high risk, high return. So even on supports, because you drop down to 10% HP, you are very vulnerable. But the thing about Gate 2 is that, yes, you need your DPSs to be on top of their game, on top of the patterns, very good pattern recognition. But support has to pump it up. They need to be able to provide a lot of shields, heals where necessary, a lot of identity buffs, so you can breeze through the first part of the gate. More damage means faster push, means being exposed to less patterns. And then generally it's the support's role, unless there's like a gun lancer, to deal with the mech, the trap mech. Gate 2, at least one person needs to have a very good understanding of how to deal with the trap mech. And I think generally it would fall down, that responsibility will fall on the support. So you have a lot of things to do. You need to rotate skills with 75% cooldown reduction. You need to keep people alive because they're going to get hit one way or the other. And the lifeline is providing everyone with a lot of shields, constant shields. And because the boss is of like large size, one key aspect is also to keep rotating around the boss, giving everyone yearning. But if you have a gun lancer, maybe they can take care of like at least the pattern part, like the trap mech part. But anyhow, generally battle item wise, potion definitely. Even supports should take big pots. Trap mech most important, and for supports it's generally destruction bomb and dark bomb. And then DPS is generally go for Atrophin if they feel that they can, do that. Atrophin, Dark Bomb, and Trap Mech. If they feel uncomfortable with Atrophin, then Dark Bomb is also a good option. You do like Dark Bomb rotations. In Gates 2, good idea is to take Rhapsody in case you can see someone in a pinch and allow them to live. There will be Rhapsody timings. Also, a good idea is to take Crisis Evasion if that is a available option on your build choices. Crisis Evasion so that you can care less about your own survivability and care more about your DPSs. A good important thing with supports is just having that wide vision so that you can see the state in which everyone is and provide them with shielding, Rhapsody, and stuff where needed. And because you have 75% cooldown reduction, you want skills that give you high gauge for like low frames. So in this case, rotating Heavenly Tune, Prelude, Winter Music, and Sonatine, along with like Guardian Tune once in a while, will be the go-to. And you do want to take Rhythm Buckshot for this one, because there's a particular counter where it's very difficult to deal with if you're using Preludes. And there's a lot of counters that happen anyways. So, and Rhythm Buckshot can allow you to sustain a hit without getting knocked to the ground. So like just keep it available. It's a good idea to take it. Although you don't really need to. But I tend to take it always. Okay, you go in. He always starts with a push. Like that. So be ready for that. If you're casting Heavenly Tune or something that does not have process, it will get cancelled. So make sure you're aware of it and cast skills that don't have process beforehand or afterwards, or use something that has process immunity. And I think I'm in charge of all the traps for this one. So I go in, apply Heavenly Tune, mark, and the identity buff, and notice when and where I throw the first trap. So when he does that red roar, you can't throw traps. He will nullify them. But after it's done, you can throw the trap, and generally you throw it on his left armpit. Generally that has a very high success rate. Whatever pattern he chooses to do afterwards. Because it detonates after 5 seconds, and he needs to be standing in it for 5 seconds. One thing to note about this trap thing is that Lachesis doesn't like it. So if you throw it at the wrong moment, he will jump out of it. But in the beginning here, it's like pretty much guaranteed to land. So he'll give you blood as he is trapped. The stagger bar indicates that he has been trapped. One thing to know about positioning here is that you see his right arm getting trapped. That means that his left arm will be the origin point for the ensuing telegraph. So be aware to stand not on his left arm. And then he spawns 4 bloods. So pretty much everyone stands in one of... It spawns in an X shape from him. So generally you'll have like the 2 entropies if you have 2 entropies on the back side. And if you have a front attacker, then you'll be with them on the front side, each eating 1 blood orb. If the blood orb goes back into him, then he will regain some HP. Generally, you want to make sure that everyone consumes it. It doesn't go in. Did that one go in? Yeah, you see, he regained like, I don't know, 2 lines maybe. Because that blood went in. Anyhow, once he's trapped, his patterns are more or less readable. It's like tame patterns. So you want to keep him in his trapped state as much as possible. And since now I have the blood, you always want to keep track of whether you have the blood when you're casting skills. If you have the blood, your awakening also goes down in terms of cooldown. So you'll notice it had a sub 30-second cooldown after I used the awakening with the blood consumed. And that basically means that you can keep spamming your awakening every time it's off cooldown, especially with the buff that we got in terms of awakening usages. I mean, before the patch, you'll have to be a bit more selective when it comes to awakening usage, because you only have 5 awakening charges, was it? But basically, it's like Earth mode in League of Legends. You keep spamming skills. In this case, I keep rotating between these 4 skills: Heavenly Tune, Winter Music, Prelude, and Sonatine, and then occasional Guardian Tune. And the way this works, once he's trapped, let me go back. Once he's trapped, he'll give you a stagger. And if this fails, this is not your problem. This is your party's problem. They're not using skills. Because if they have blood, right, they have 75% cooldown reduction. So if the stagger fails, it's generally a team problem. You don't need to like switch skills to have more stagger or anything. You need just to be more aware about using skills as a team whenever that stagger mech happens. And every time there's a stagger check, he will do 3 patterns, exactly 3 patterns, and then he'll do another stagger check. Now, he'll keep doing that. Stagger check, 3 patterns, stagger check, 3 patterns, stagger check. But every time the stagger gets harder and harder, and generally most parties will not be able to do the 3rd stagger, which means that the trap will be removed. But right now he has the trap on. He'll do 3 patterns, and they're all very readable. You'll need to be able to know what they are, what they look like. Like for this one is the entropy killer. That's the... He kicks towards the back, and then he whips his tail. And then there's a side explosion as well. If you're an entropy player, you want to be careful about that specific pattern. Everything else is pretty much free DPS for entropy players. Kinda. That's the second stagger. So he's going to do 3 more patterns. And like here, I'm trying to go around to apply yearning and all. And like trying to provide shielding when possible. So you drop down to 10% HP. But like you drop droplets of blood. If you pick those up, you regain 10% HP for each one of them. So here you see... I think that was from blood. Yeah, see, like every time they pick up bloods, they regain 10% HP, so that's 20k. But the problem is, if you keep going chasing after blood like that, you don't DPS, and so that's huge DPS loss. So generally try to, as DPSs and as support, try to rely on shields while dealing with this entire gate, rather than trying to pick up blood too much. I mean, if it's like spawns right next to you, you can go pick it up, of course. But trying to pick up blood that is too far away is DPS loss here. Here, that's the third stagger. So stagger, 3 patterns, stagger, 3 patterns, stagger. This stagger just generally failed. So the trap gets removed. But you can't throw the trap right away. He can't throw a trap if he has this buff on him. That means he's aware. He's looking. And when he has this buff, he doesn't get trapped. So you have to wait until this buff expires. And then this is what happens. After like a few patterns generally, he'll give you a counter. You have to know what the counter motion looks like. And at least one person needs to be aware of it and do the counter like this. And then there's an ensuing stagger. And right after, you can throw a trap after this red fog disappears. If you throw it before this red fog happens, then the trap will get nullified. So see, I throw the trap after. So after the third stagger, he might do a few patterns, and then he'll give you a counter. And after you do the counter, he'll do a stagger. And then after the stagger, he'll give you a red fog. And after the red fog disappears, then you can throw a trap to make him tame again. And then after the trap lands, he gets trapped, he does another stagger. You have to memorize that. Now in this case, we managed to push it down to 90 something. Generally, he phases at like 95, let's say. 95-ish. And so he didn't get trapped. He just phased into the mech. But like if we were not an overgeared party, he would have gotten trapped. And we would have done a few more rounds of that. So trap into stagger into 3 patterns into stagger into 3 patterns. Now, 90 line mech, 95 line mech, something. One person will be dealt with the 2 eyeballs. That person will have to Borpa spin around, ring around the Rosie, around Lachesis in the center, and then he'll spawn 3 clones, to which the remaining people will have to attend to. So see, I got dealt the 2 eyeballs. And so I'm trying to spin around. If his line of sight lands on the person with the 2 eyeballs, he will do a flame attack like that. You can get hit by it, doesn't really matter. But if you have consumed blood, which he does drop, it will bring you down to 10% HP. And then the job of the person in the center is to guide the flame out of where the other peoples are doing damage. Now what happens apart from the person in the center is that the 3 clones, 2 of them will dish out a counter. One of them will give an eyeball to the player who's closest. And that person has to ring around the Rosie on that clone. If the clone's line of sight lands on the person who has that 3rd eyeball, then it's a wipe. It's okay for the center Lachesis to meet their eyes on the person with the 2 eyeballs. That's okay. Because he just does a flame. It's like whatever. But the person who's doing this, if they fail this is a wipe. So they have to make sure that they keep escaping his sight. And so what happens is the 2 people who had to do counters will go to the clone that has not been countered, and they'll try to kill it. Meanwhile, the 3rd person who had the 3rd eyeball will keep rotating. And generally, at the beginning of this mech, right? Generally, it's not always the case, but generally it tends to give the 2 eyes to the person who's closest. Generally, we try to give this role to the support, but this entire thing's kind of wacky. So it's not always the case that the 2 eyeballs get dealt to the person who's standing in the center, right next to Lachesis. So you'll have to adjust if, in case that someone else gets the 2 eyeballs. You'll have to be very vigilant as to, by looking at the minimap, trying to spot which clone is not attended to. Because if you fail the counters, it's a wipe. If the 3rd eyeball person, the clone Lachesis managed to find the 3rd eyeball guy, it's a wipe. Sometimes there are cases where, and this is a bus strat, by the way. Sometimes the 2 eyeball guy will be standing too close to the real Lachesis clone, and they'll be dealt a 3rd eye, so they'll have 3 eyeballs, and in that case they'll have to like spin around the Lachesis clone that is left, and because you're generally like sitting in this position, Lachesis in the center will keep breathing fire in that general spot. It's kind of rough, but that's how bus parties do it. It is possible to do with just 3 people. It's not possible to do with 2. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to grab blood and aim the breath outside of where the DPSs are doing damage. And meanwhile, I'm trying to apply yearning and give attack buffs to help the process of killing this clone. If you don't kill it in time, then it detonates and it's a wipe. Can you run out of his sight? No, he'll keep aiming at you. I mean, it's not optimal to run out of his sight anyways. Because, like, even if it's a DPS, you can get the 2 eyeballs and you can do damage. Well, so this is what I do here, right? I try to make him breathe into this direction, and then I go in and, like, pop in sonic vibration and whatnot. And give buffs. And then you can't run out of sight anyways for the clone. If the direction is towards you, then it will detonate. For this one, technically you can just run to like one of the corners and like to the edge of the map and like not get hit by the fire, but I think it's possible. I've never tried it, but like it's not optimal. So now, one thing about this encounter is that over time he keeps getting buffs. It makes him stronger. And you have to get rid of these buffs by inducing a destruction mech, which happens when he already has 1 trap, and then he gets another one. So 2 traps means destruction, and if you succeed that destruction, the buffs are wiped out. The reason I want to do that is because, first of all, these buffs make him stronger. And second, I think it makes him stronger. And second, if it reaches 5 stacks, then it's a wipe. We call that Exodia because he gets 5 and it's and the game is over. So you have to induce a destruction mech in time. But first of all, in this case, he's not trapped, right? And also, you can throw 2 traps at once and induce destruction mech, which we'll see later. But we're trying to fish for a counter. So the thing about here is that if I throw a trap like just now, like at random, there's a high chance that he'll just move out of it because he doesn't like them. He's very aware of them. And there's ways to induce him to get trapped, which is throwing one and then making him jump and then throwing one immediately on his land position. And even that is kind of janky. The best way to make sure a trap lands is trapping him right after a counter. So right now we're just dealing with the strengthened patterns and waiting for a counter. The counter is a timed mech. I think it happens every 1 minute 30 seconds from last I remember. Last time I checked. You may want to like time that, measure that. But more importantly, you need to know what the counter pattern looks like. You can also technically throw a trap immediately as the stagger happens, because when he's not trapped, he has a stagger bar. But this one is also very janky because he wakes up really fast. It's very easy to fail this one as well. This is the counter mech. When he like slightly steps backwards, that is a counter. You need to be ready for that. You need to know what this counter looks like and the other counter that he did earlier where he slightly twirls his body. That is a counter. And when he slowly backsteps, that is also a counter. You need to know what these look like in order to throw a trap properly, in order to trap him and make him tame so that the DPSs can do damage with more ease. So now stagger happens. And then if we want to be safe, then someone will throw a trap mech right here. Otherwise, if it just falls on you, then you'll have to wait for... Because there's a 30-second cooldown on the trap thing. Yeah, someone threw. Right here. So if you're in a full party of experienced people, they know what to do without having to tell them, without having to communicate. And so second trap induces a destruction because he's already been trapped once. And that gets rid of his buffs. See? His buffs are gone. So now we don't have to fear of getting exodia'd. And now he's down to below 30 lines, so he's not going to face. Even if you drop him down to 0 lines, which can happen, here he doesn't die. He still does the second part. Now, about how to navigate as a support. Spam Awakening whenever it's available, kinda. Abuse Guardian Tune on Bard. And whenever you have the Blood, Heavenly Tune will be available 100% uptime. And try to spam Gauge Gaining Skills. Right now, since he's not trapped, I'm also trying to fish for a counter. Which is why I'm not too aggressive. Because I want to be sure that I get the trap in. Here's the counter happens. I get Blood. Stagger is immediate. I use Awakening. 3 bubbles. Attack buff. Mark skill. Attack buff again. Just for good measure. And then, yeah, I apply Yearning over here. You'll have to, be aware of reapplying Yearning. Because, yeah, this boss is of huge size. And generally, you're trying to stick to one of the corners. So that you can keep consuming the buff, the blood that occurs that spawns from that location. Like as a support, you're the busiest person in the party. You have to deal with the mechs, you have to shield people, you have to keep applying attack buff, yearning, guardian tune and whatnot. Keep building gauge, heal people. Why do you get 3 stacks immediately after destruction? Oh, like the 2 buffs are kind of the baseline. This buff is the awaken buff, so this means that for this duration he won't get trapped anymore. It goes from 2 to 3 to 5, the buff count. He never goes to 4. He goes from 3 to 5 immediately. So once he's at 3, you have to be like aware that you need to get him destroyed soon. Yeah, that's one thing I did mention. And then yeah. Once he hits 30 lines, he'll do this. People leave. And then safe spot either occurs over here or down here. One or the other. And so you have to like go there. The easiest way to do it is just right click and then don't move. Because like the camera changes direction like this and it can get in the way of you trying to get over here. Sometimes it does happen that people die from not being able to reach the safe spot. This is a one shot. Now, when he breathes fire from this location, it means that this side will be safer first. So you want to run towards that side. You can hug the wall and not get hit by the flame. Like this. And then that allows you to reach him a bit faster. So yeah, this is the nerfed version of this part. It used to be very janky and hard and very random because we didn't have the blue telegraphs. But now we do see the blue telegraph, so it's way easier to avoid. Just take your time here. Don't try to like fit into like very narrow spots. Try to find an opening. Because if you get hit by one of those, you get stunned and you can get hit by additional balls and then it might kill you. Before it got nerfed, like those were like almost one shots. Now it's like less damage. Anyways, you get to his side and you deal with the stagger. And you get out. That hurts a lot. Can kill you. Now you go to the center. And we call this the Lust Cena, because that's what Stoops called it. Lust Cena. We throw traps immediately as we're able to. So see here, battle items are not usable. But once he roars and the camera starts moving, the battle items are available. So we throw that in the center. Everyone's grouped up. One person gets the aggro. And he's going to jump generally towards that person's location. Yeah, like this. He lands there, and if this works, then he gets trapped immediately. Double trap means destruction. He either does a big jump or he starts dashing. So either or. But for both patterns, this tactic works. The Lucina. Whether he starts dashing or jumping, he will run into this direction induced by this aggro guy. And he'll get trapped. So notice that he has five buffs. If you deal with this destruction properly, all the buffs go away. So he's tame now. Or at least like his patterns do less damage. And then yeah, it's just a fight running down 80 bars. And we have a stacking buff on him, which means every time it stacks up, he does more damage, but he also gets dealt more damage. It's a very high risk, high return pattern. If you take too long here, then like his attacks will slowly but surely become one shots. So you want to kill him as fast as possible. Oh yeah, like Kangol. Yeah, exactly. Like Lariel. So he does different patterns here. But if you're able to get it to this point, this part is like easy enough. But be aware, it hurts a lot as those buffs ramp up. As a support, what you need to do is to, yeah, care for people. Make sure they're shielded. If they need a heal, rotate heals. But if you're like a goblin, then spam identity buffs. And the DPSs will like that too, if they're goblins. Because they deal more damage. So here they can see huge numbers. Even on my crappy setting blade, I saw like 1 bill surges here with Dark Bomb, and that's why DPSs, once they get accustomed to this gate, want to take Adrophin to see those big numbers. So yeah. And that's how you get 31% Radiant. Here's a run on Artist. I took a very goblin skill setup here, so don't follow this. You want to have Sprinkle, because Sprinkle is godlike in this gate, because you can shield people from the other side of the boss. Carpet, double attack buff is a given. Hopper is really good here, because you can hop around the boss and provide shield to everyone and give them Yearning at the same time. And then whichever counter you pick, it's like whatever. I'm really just accustomed to one stroke. And the portals don't have too much use here, although it's a great way to build gauge because of the 75% cooldown reduction. It's a decent pick, but like it's not helpful for the stagger and destruction checks. So in case your party seems to be lacking a bit in terms of stagger, which should just not happen though, consider taking something else. If you're taking portals out, you'll have Sprinkle, Tiger, and Inkwell. But yeah, I mean, portals is a good choice just for the gauge because it has such a short animation window, and you can build a lot of gauge off that. And then it does have one use in the 30-line mech. If someone does get caught by the fireballs, you can free them using portal, but like they should not get caught in the first place. So I plant carpet before the roar happens so I don't get knocked backwards and the carpet gets cancelled. I spacebar in to negate the pushback. And then after the roar ends and I use a sun sketch before that, I plant the trap. He didn't get trapped. Rip. In one of those cases where he doesn't get trapped, it was like a very slim margin. Thankfully, this is a very experienced party with Saint, Foss, and Lustboy, so it doesn't matter. If you miss that initial window, though, it's better if you because it's hard to find another window where you can get the trap in. His enraged patterns will be hard to deal with. Some of them are just really bad, straight up bad to deal with. That's a counter. Foss dealt with the counter. So in this case, because we didn't trap him early on, he did a very, very early counter. We get the stagger in. Do we throw a trap? Are we that goblin? I spacebar to not get knocked by the tail whip. So yeah, if he doesn't get trapped, he like jumps around and his patterns are really menacing. Like this one. Look at these goblins. Still fitting in damage even while Lekais is not trapped. He's gonna jump out of this one, most likely. Oh, he cancels it. So yeah, every time he roars, the traps get nullified. But we pushed him to 90 lines anyways. This will not happen, by the way. If you're progging it especially, and then like without elixirs, because like we pushed it so fast that it got down to 90 lines. It's only you throw the traps. I mean, I did opt to throw the traps, so it partly falls on me. Generally, just to avoid confusion, you just have one guy throwing, be the main trap thrower. But when you're learning this rate, when you're like progging and still like trying to get experience on this, it's tough. So like a lot of traps end up getting wasted, and so it's better to do like trap calls via Discord. But yeah, we got to the 99 pattern. I did get the double eyes. 2 counters happen. The bottom side one is the clone that you'll have to kill. I aim the breath outwards. And then I try to provide buffs. See me juggling it like that, and then they kill it. I still have the blood, so I use Awakening there. And we're waiting for a counter opportunity. He's at 3 stacks, so we'll have to deal with him soon. Deal with the buffs soon. That's a counter. I counter it. 1 stroke, baby. But like, notice how I rotate my skills. Attack buff, carpet, blue koi, tiger, hopper, counter, attack buff. Now the blood is gone. But when you're doing this, you need to have a good idea of what skills to prioritize, so that you can maximize the gauge gain that you get while dealing with the mechs and all. Identity buff, carpet, sun sketch, awakening because it's back off cooldown. I have the blood. Carpet, attack buff, tiger, carpet, attack buff, tiger, bluefish, carpet, attack buff, tiger, hopper. Of course, if you're in a learning party, you'll have to rotate hoppers much more, and sprinkle. You'll have sprinkles. You'll have to try to aim for the DPSs on that. But this is like a goblin party, and this is this is a goblin setup too. In this case, it's a very peculiar case where we didn't even destroy him once, and we got him to phase before we needed to get the buffs off of him. So this will not happen at all. You will have to destroy him and get the buffs out so that he doesn't go Exodia mode. In this case, we're just... These guys, including myself, were 2 goblin. There I used an awakening so that I could get full bubbles. I mean, I didn't need to because I would be able to get gauge from over there. But just so that the awakening runs off cooldown so I can get to use it later on too. just in case. We run in, we do the stagger, and once it's about to end, you have to prepare to get out. I am using Hopper just in case someone is slow to get out. And we do the Lucina. We throw the trap, and then the guy who has the aggros tries to aim the Lachesis into the traps. Here, see, he gets trapped. So the perfect timing again is right as you're able to throw the battle items. And the camera starts moving, like right here. You need to throw right here. If you throw it too late, it might not register. It detonates exactly as he passes through them. He gets we get the destruction in, 5 buffs go away, and now it's goblin time. Dark bomb in, Hopper, Sunwell, rotating attack buff, carpet before it runs out. Hopper, that's a tail whip, spacebar to knock and knocked. Inkwell, Sunwell. Carpet, he's gonna drag people away. It hurts a lot. I heal up, pot up. Hopper, Sunwell, Bluefish, counter just to get gauge. Hopper, shield people, and get gauge. And my awakening's up soon. 28 lines. Carpet. Awakening, going in. Sun sketch immediately. I did lose like 1 second of attack. Oh, I got bit. If you get bitten as a DPS, high chance that you die here. But I'm a support. Someone died. Hurts a lot. This guy is DPSing in the fire. That fire, well, how many stacks was that? I think it's at 3 stacks. It's an immediate death. Yeah, you want to use Sprinkle here. You absolutely want to use Sprinkle here. I'm just doing this because I can afford to with this party. Because it's, yeah, it's friggin' Saint, Fast and Lustboy. They don't need it. These are goblins, greedy as hell. And they know how to juggle even with the high risk. For Paladin, what's that skill called that does double destruction? Apart from Executor Sword. Is it Punisher or Executor or Punishment, is it? Okay, Punishment. Punishment is a decent choice if your party does not have enough stagger and destruction. That's the same for gates 3 and 4. It might be better if you take double blue skill, just so that you have a safe baseline in terms of stagger, counter, and destruction and whatnot. And yeah, you might also consider taking the punishment skill. And for this gate, and for all gates for that matter, it's better if you take the fat shield tripod on Holy Protection. Because there's nothing really to cleanse here, and especially in gate 2, your DPS will benefit more from the fat shield tripod. It's basically like an awakening shield. It's that fat. Because you can spam it all the time if you have the blood. Trap, mark, and attack buff, identity buff in as well. Avoiding the ground slam he does. Doing stagger. And one difficult part about Paladin is that you have to make sure that everyone is in the holy aura. Because the boss is really big, and you're generally like airing at one of the front sides of the boss. And because of the radius of holy aura, you just have to make sure that DPS on the backside, this guy especially, is benefiting from it. So you have to position yourself carefully. And because he does a lot of push skills, you want to make sure to be able to know what skills need to tank with spacebar. And yeah, your spacebar also has a reduced cooldown, so that's great here. Recovery as well, I think. And once in a while, of course, you want to make sure that you're applying yearning to the people, especially on the opposite side. Ah! Oh, spacebar out. Nice. Because that was about to push me to the ground. Holy aura. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure to stick to the boss positioning-wise so that this guy can benefit from my holy aura. Just momentarily lapsing out just to get the blood. And avoid that. Skill. People are still getting yearning. Good, good. That's the counter. Countered it, staggered it. Throw another trap. Although we might push it. So you might phase here. Yeah, this happens in like over DPS parties, but in like without elixirs, you will have to see a few more patterns. So it's very important to know the order of things. So throw trap at beginning, stagger, 3 patterns, stagger, 3 patterns, stagger but failed, and then fish for the counter, land the counter, and then do this. Wait. Let's look back. This is the failed counter. Anyway, failed stagger. He does 1 pattern. And he gives us a counter. And then you have a stagger. And then after the red fog goes away, you throw a trap. And then he's trapped again. And then generally what we'll do if we don't have like full elixirs, we're not over DPS, over geared, as in this case, is after, so counter, stagger, throw trap after the red fog, stagger again, 3 patterns, and then stagger, and then afterwards we'll throw a second trap there so that we induce the destruction there, so that we don't have to worry about him reaching Exodia 5 buff stacks too much after the 99 phase. So he phases, and then here notice I was trying to get the 2 eyes, but I noticed that the guy on the right side got it. So we quickly reposition so that I go to his allocated spot. You have to be really quick to notice this. A lot of wipes happen at 90 lines because people don't notice that they got like the 2 eyes and all. You have to look at like the mini map to see whether each clone is being attended. And here I get the eyeball, so this is good. No. Oh, one thing about this part though is that you don't want to be standing in front of him when the clone spawns. If you're standing in front of him and you're dealt this 3rd eyeball here, then it's an immediate wipe. So whether it's a stagger or it's the real clone, you want to be at his side first, and then you see whether he's giving you a counter or he's giving you the eyeball. And then if it's the counter, then you move in front of him. And then you deal with the counter. But in this case, because I was standing at his side, it's not a wipe. And I notice it's the eyeball, so I like go around him. Now, as a support, what you can do if you're in this position is you keep trying to give Mark, that was very close, and then try to give attack buff when possible, like this. But you have to be really careful. Your priority should be definitely not to get caught in his line of sight, because it's an immediate wipe. So you only try to use skills when you can, when you see an opening. This is why I love Light Shock, because that is a put something that would have pushed me backwards, but I tanked it with Light Shock because of the process immunity. Now we're trying to wait for a counter, but we had a counter right before the mech happened. So he's going to give us a few patterns. So he'll give us some angry patterns here. It'll be quite mobile and menacing. We're still trying to fit in some damage. This is one of the menacing patterns. So luckily here, I threw my awakening there. So nobody's like dying, I hope. But these puddles track you down and they explode. And if you don't detonate them too early, then they do an AoE attack in your direction. And it hurts so much it might kill you, especially since... Oh, someone died. Okay. Yeah, that pattern's really rough. And that's why you don't want to deal with him when he doesn't have the trap. Trying to juggle the puddles, trying to detonate them before they explode on their own right. It's really rough here. A lot of wipes happen because of this exact pattern. One thing you can do though is when he starts casting that, you can throw a trap on him, and sometimes it will work. Sometimes he will get trapped. In this case, I think we were a bit too late, so he jumped out of it. But if you throw a trap immediately as he like begins doing that, you can trap him. That looked like a counter, but it wasn't. That's a counter. If you fail the initial counter, so this is a good example, he will do another counter coming backwards. See how I hit that? Now, it's really rough to hit that. If you're one of those classes that aren't blessed with a Giga Chat counter, this will be very rough to deal with. So it's better if you can counter him here when he's tame. And if you fail it, because like for me it was on cooldown because I used it right before, you have to try to hit him as he comes back. One way to deal with it is to spacebar into him and then do the counter. Or in this case, I just did it. Oh, this is one of the bugs that happens. Even though he got countered, sometimes he just keeps running, which is weird. That's like a bug, I think. So now he failed the counter, and we didn't get him destroyed. This is kind of dangerous. I wonder if this is a wipe. I didn't check. Someone threw a trap. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't like that. So now, this is another good example. So once he runs out of the trap, you try to trap him again, like that. In this case, he ran out of it again. So yeah, when you don't manage to trap him right after a counter, it gets very rough like this. Keeps running around, and he'll keep trying to dodge your counters, your traps. He does patterns like this. There's a few patterns that are really menacing. It's not a counter. Move out of it. Now it's concerning. He might go Exodia mode there. I threw a trap on his land position, trying to get him trapped there. Hopefully it works. Not quite. You keep trying to throw traps there, trying to get it. Yeah, now he has 4 traps. Yeah, that's a wipe. He gets the 5th one immediately. So that's a wipe. So that's a good example of what happens if you fail the trap mech. Let me just check if this is a clear run. This one's a clear run. Okay, okay. Gates too can get very janky like that if you don't have a good mastery of the trap tech. So initial trap goes in. Avoid the ground slam. Get the stagger in, and he's gonna do 3 patterns, right? Back whip, tail whip. That's the pattern that entropy DPSs need to be aware of. Second was tail whip, and the third one is a bigger tail whip. And now it's a stagger mech. 3 patterns exactly. Second stagger was done. You need to have a good read on like where you are in terms of timeline. So second stagger happened. You did like 2 patterns now. That might be the third pattern. I potted up, so I almost died there. Now it's the third stagger, and that's generally the stagger that people fail. It is actually possible to do this stagger on Princess Maker Gunlancer. Fun fact is the fourth one is just an impossible stagger. So there is a stagger bar, but you just absolutely can't do it. And now that the third stagger has happened, and he does like 1 pattern, 2, he does a counter. We deal with the stagger. After the red fog, I throw the trap, and then he gets trapped. He's at 100 lines. He does get caught here. Stagger, and then he's gonna face soon. Meanwhile, if you notice my skill rotations though, when I have the blood, oh shit, moved backwards too much. No, too far. Mark, attack buff, awakening, identity, mark, stagger, attack buff, mark, holy protection, mark. You just spam skills basically. Mark, attack buff, mark, counter. And in the while, you're trying to keep track of what you need to do at that moment in terms of like the trap mech and stagger and all. Attack buff, mark. Just spam skills whenever they are off cooldown, basically. Easy on Paladin. Attack buff, stagger, mark. Attack buff, mark. Holy protection. Gods in law for good measure. Mark, attack buff. And now the blood has run out, and he's going to face soon. He jumps to the center. Sometimes he'll jump to the center before starting the mech. Like that. I'm trying to get the 2 eyes. And the DPSs are all trying to gain position. The one on 11 o'clock is the real clone. I try to get blood, and I aim the breath outwards, give everyone yearning an attack buff and mark, and then move out. Try to aim the breath outside, and then go back in, attack buff. It's dead. Identity buff as soon as it's done. Start doing damage on him. Attack buff. Now the blood has run out. Now I need to be more aware of how I use my skills until I get the next blood. Now I got the blood. Now I use awakening. Jump out of him. He's going to drag people backwards. Fire puddles. Counter. You always have to try to fish for the counter. Ask the support because you're the main counter. Although there is a Gunlancer in this party. But you need to keep DPSs focused on doing damage. So like you need to do all the rough work. So that's the first stagger. Attack buff, mark. Attack buff, mark. Mark. And awakening is available, so I'll use it. Yep, exactly. Identity buff. And after the stagger, likely I'll throw second trap. Second trap? Yep, second trap. It's gonna put him into destruction mode. That was dangerous. And then we use destruction bombs there so that to make him tame, so that he doesn't go Exodia mode. Attack buff mark, holy protection, attack buff mark, awakening when it's available. Exactly. I use it at while I still have the blood on so that I can profit from the cooldown reduction on it so that I have it available back when you start fighting me in the second phase. Go to the center, find the safe spot. It's downwards. I click. I just let it go. If you try to click while the camera rotates, sometimes it's janky. It might go in the opposite direction. I move. Once the breath is done, I go inside. I try to fish for a safe spot. I go in, stagger, and then go out. Holy protection, or Godsend Law actually. Godsend Law to keep the Gunlancer alive. So this is something you can do. If you see someone who's like kind of slow, you can try to protect them using like Holy Protection or Godsend Law after you moved outside. Or while you're still inside, since you can tank it. We use the Lust Cena tactic. He's destroyed. He gives us that destruction. He's destroyed. Now Exodia's gone. Attack buff mark awakening, because I used it earlier with the blood on it, so it's available immediately after it's done. He goes into the fire, which is kind of annoying for entropy classes. He's going to jump out of it, go back in, avoid the puddles that arise from him. Those hurt a lot. Bite, don't be in front. Attack buff mark, Godsend Law to provide people with shields. Everything hurts here. Judgment, light shock, and there's nothing to stagger here in this phase, so like just use blue skills if you have no other skills to use. You just want to like build whatever gauge you can out of them. Holy protection. Attack buff. Yeah, just rotating skills, trying to keep people alive, dodging telegraphs. Providing shields to people who might get hit. Attack buff. Light shock. Done. Hey, that's Paladin life. Mark attack buff. Shield mark attack buff. But hey, that's how you get 30% Radiant. So gate 3, gates 3 and 4 highly reward you for having a lot of stagger and destruction and counter capability. Definitely take rhythm book shots in gates 3 and 4 on Bard. I mean, taking sound shock is also a decent idea. Rhapsody also helps here, but like I don't take them. Generally, if you have sound shock though, you don't need to go to the extreme of taking Soundholic. You do have decent enough stagger just with sound shock. In terms of battle items, stimulant definitely, and generally supports take corrosive bomb. You need one person to take corrosive because whenever a destruction check happens, you need a lot of destruction points in order to get the destruction done. And once he's destroyed, he becomes really tame. So that's why having a lot of destruction throughout your party is very important. And one guy throws corrosive, the other guys throw destruction bomb, and then you just try to fit in as many destruction skills as you have. And this is where Princess Maker Gunmaster also becomes like super godlike. And then for fourth battle item slot, definitely Dark Bomb for everyone. Some people do take Whirlwind though. Rhapsody can be helpful indeed. In which case you would... So like you'd replace Sonatine and take either Soundholic or Rhapsody as you see fit. He's gonna jump immediately, so all I do is just use Sound Shock and proc my Yearning. Jump immediate. And then generally what people do is stack up in one position so that everyone gets a flame puddle dropping on them like this. And the thing with this flame puddle, if you get hit by it, and if you get hit by certain patterns from Mr. Cow, you get this stacking debuff, which at 5 stacks gives you a lot of attack speed. I think it's just attack speed. So I try to get hit like 4 or 5 times generally. So what we will do is generally stack up in one position. I mean, these guys just moved out of it. I don't know why, but generally stack up, and the support provides DR plus shielding. So I'd like make it so that people will get shielded like this, so that they can tank the hits and get the debuff stacking up. I get hit on purpose here, so I get the debuff, so I get the attack speed. One thing to note about Bard is that the shield, from what I know, is a double proc. So you can kind of time it so that the first hit lands, and then the puddles hit, and those can do a lot of damage. And then the shield is renewed on the second proc of Wind of Music. So if you can time it really well and people just stack up neatly, you can provide a shield right after they get all 4 stacks. Because the thing about these stacks is that they give you continuous damage. So the shield part can negate the incoming damage from those stacks. Now we go Goblin mode until 145 lines. He phases immediately once he hits 145 lines. So once he comes down after dishing out the puddles, great time to use Dark Bomb plus a 3 bubble identity buff plus everything. When he does a dash pattern like this, it's nice to aim him towards the closest wall so he doesn't like move away too much. When he slams the ground like that, it means that he's gonna jump again and slam. So see what I did? I spacebarred into him so that I don't get knocked into the ground. If you don't do that, or like you can also use things like Guardian Tune, Rhythm Buckshot, and whatnot. He doesn't do a counter here, so Rhythm Buckshot's a safe skill to use. He doesn't do a counter before 145 lines. So you get knocked into the air like this if you're not prepared for the ensuing slam. So we shred him down to 145. Now the pug way to do this is to stand times 3+1 and ping whenever the pillars appear in your section. And then you look at the minimap and guess which, see which order the pillars spawned. They always spawn in a cross shape. So if you know the position of one, you can deduce the position of the others, but you need to know the order is the problem. And you need to guide them into the pillars. One guy gets the target and guide them into the pillars in order in which they spawned. Now there's a way to do it without pings, which is like standing like somewhere around here or here and trying to have as much vision with 21:9 resolution. You can use the laws of deductions inference to guess which positions the pillars spawn from, even if you're not looking at them. So technically you can do them without like doing the times 3+1 strat and just have one guy try to divine where the pillar spawned. Anyways, after the first pillar is destroyed, you're gonna see a lot of rain. Blue rain, if you get hit by that, you get stunned, and then you can get hit by additional puddles, and like that might shred people down to 0 health. Don't get hit. You have to keep moving. Guardian Tune is godlike here because it can allow your DPSs to negate one of the stuns. I'm aiming it to the, I think it's the third pillar. Yeah, third pillar. I'm trying to get whatever gauge I can, trying to maintain Yearning. Guardian Tune again. And then this Corrosive Bomb on the fourth one, because when the fourth one succeeds, it gives us a destruction. If you have enough destruction in the party, then the destruction will be successful. It's a stacking destruction. So like even if you fail it here, you can continue off on the next destruction. Anyways, if you manage to make him tame here, this fight becomes really easy. Do we have enough destruction? Yeah, we did. So we did have enough destruction across this party. So now he's neutralized. So this is like free damage window from here on. And this is why I like having something like Red Gun Lancer and then Princess Maker Gun Lancer especially is really valuable. Because once his horns are destroyed, that's what you're destroying, he becomes really tame. So that's why I go like, I use 3 bubbles, I use Dark Bomb, I'm rotating attack buffs. The slam here, because he doesn't have horns, does not have a secondary slam. He's gonna toss someone up. If that person is there, they're gonna get tossed to the other side. You can push him unit. Small fire. His attacks are really tame. So try to abuse these windows as much as you can. I spacebar out of it because he's going to toss me. And then if I were tossed there, I would have landed in the water. You can go in the water up to 3 times, 4 times. Just like in a con. And notice here, this move here means that he's going to do a Borpa spin, and then he's going to give us yellow telegraphs. His horns have grown, by the way. So now he's not tame anymore. Yeah, there he grows his horns. And whenever he grows his horns, he always follows it up with a toss backwards. Like this. So you want to be aware of not standing in front of him when he does that, because as a support, you're always trying to like maintain head position to control the aggro. So I spacebar into him here because I know that he's gonna try to toss me backwards. So see, if you don't tank that with push process immunity, push immunity is it? You get this push immunity. You get knocked into the air like this. And then if you are standing here, good thing to note, you get pushed backwards, flung into the air, and you can land in the water, which sometimes you want to use because sometimes you have too many stacks of this. Like if you have more than 10 stacks, it's starting to get dangerous. Now, as a support, what you need to do, because people are constantly inflamed, they keep taking continuous damage, so you need to be shielding them constantly and healing when needed. If you see someone who has like whose health is like omega burning down, then they have like way too many stacks. You need to care for them, which is why in case like that, Rhapsody is really helpful. But DPSers should not have stacks go up to that point in the first place, so it kind of falls on them. But as a support, what you can do is definitely try to shield them as much as you can. That is a counter move, and that's really tough to deal with. On Bard, especially because she only has short counter options. So what you need to do here, he flings first, and then he follows it up with a counter. So the way to counter that is to spacebar into him, and then do the counter. Spacebar allows you to negate the process that happens initially, and then you follow it up with a Rhythm Buckshot. That's the only way to deal with. That's pretty much the only way to deal with the counter here, or you like use a process immune skill beforehand, and then you follow up with a counter. But the safest way to do it, the most consistent way to do it, is to spacebar into counter. In that case, I was not the one who got it. It was this guy over here. I spacebar 2 backwards. So generally try to spacebar into him. That's the jump. So puddles will rain. And then he lands on the aggroed person. So if you know who he locked onto before, like it's one of these 2 people. He jumps, and he's going to land on them. He's gonna knock everyone into the air. You can choose to get knocked if you have too many stacks, but or you can just spacebar or push him unit. These guys decided to get knocked, I guess. He's gonna every time he like rolls his feet, he's gonna fling you backwards. And if he's he stays in motion like that after doing the fling, that means he's gonna do a counter. So you need to know all of these moves if you want to like do this masterfully. The problem with this skate is that it's really difficult to get a good read on his patterns because they all look very similar. It takes a lot of experience to know what's going on, to know what he's about to do. I call it discovery channel when I'm trying to like divine what he's trying to do. You need to grow your discovery channel senses. It's like that. Every time he like gets countered, every time he gets staggered, he gives you a huge DPS window, and every time he's destroyed, he gives like a 20-second damage window, pretty much, because he's really tame. When he does a whirl like that, it's a slow whirl, right? And then he's gonna lock on to someone. And then a laser attack. You want a spacebar out of it. That also gives you stacks. And it hurts a lot. Make sure you don't get hit. He's bringing out the big pillar. This is a stagger check. And the big pillar hurts a lot. The first hit you can tank. The second hit, if you get hit by that, it will chunk a huge portion of your HP bar. And the way to tell is you get a blue debuff if you got hit once. If you get hit by it a second time, even on supports, it will hurt a lot. And it's a stacking debuff, so you can get it more than 2 times. Now we got done with the stagger. How do you get it done that fast? That's pretty fast. So he does take full damage, but because of his pillar, like it's really hard to do damage here. So best is if you just do a lot of stagger. And then, yeah, get him to this state. Notice I saved my Yongmeng because I know that he's going to phase at like 7 bars-ish. So I want to use the Yongmeng right after this phase because the identity buff. Because it's a huge damage window. So I either use Stimulant there if I've used my bubbles beforehand, or I save 3 bubbles for it. And here's a nice pattern to use Awakening if you have it available. But even if you don't have it, just make sure that you provide DR and shielding to people so that they can tank this hit. Everyone just... I mean, there's actually a fail-proof way to do this, but like... We just don't care, and we just tank the hit. There's a way to not get hit consistently, but yeah, we just make the support provide DR and shielding. So like if you have Guardian Tune and Winter Music, give them that. If you have Rhapsody, that also works, but you have to make sure to not extend the DR to this part because you need to get flung in the water here. So you do a very easy stagger check, but you have to be somewhat distanced from him. Sometimes if you try to stagger him from up too close, sometimes the distance doesn't reach to the point where you get flung in the water. So the support, you're shielding, DRing, and then like you have sound shocks, so just like pretty much 1 sound shock is generally enough for that. And you have to get flung into the water on purpose to avoid the wipe, this wipe. Then you get out of the water. And then here's a huge damage window. Heavenly Tune, Yongmeng, and Mark going in. Followed up with Sonic Vibration, reapplying Mark, attack buff, shielding. So now we don't have the buff because we went in the water. Every time you go in the water, the buffs get erased. This is a decent pattern to get a lot of buffs. Because like these explosions, these puddles give you these buffs over here. So, like when you've gone into the water and you want to restack up to get that extra attack speed, this is a good way to do it. I use Awakening and then I use Guardian Tune there after. Wow. How did I fit that in? So he does the initial slam. I negate that using Awakening. And he's going to do a second slam. Oh, I used it right after. Okay. So I negated the second slam using Guardian Tune. And then he followed up with Heavenly Tune. That's the John Cena, we call it. And then Flame in the front. If you get hit by that, if you get caught in that, that gives you like 5 stacks. Don't get hit. Then backwards. And then he's doing a dash. I mean, if you can aim that dash towards a pillar, then it induces a short destruction window. But it's kind of difficult to do that for that one. And whenever he does a quick whirl, that means he's going to do the yellow telegraph, exploding outwards. Seeing if this is a counter. It's not. If someone gets flung, then it's not a counter generally. Someone got grabbed. So sometimes he does this. He'll leap onto someone like this. And see, someone is dangling from his horns. That means he's going to aim towards a pillar and he's going to do a counter. So if you didn't get caught, you need to be ready to counter that. And every time you succeed a counter like that, it's a short destruction, or a very short destruction window. Another flame explosion, and the gate is done. And that's how you get 32% radiant. Check it. On artist, definitely take Sprinkle. I'm a goblin, so I don't. So like, here as well, like people should not get hit by the 145 line stun thing. Portal might be less of a good option. So like, take Sprinkle, Tiger, and Inkwell might be a good idea, so that you get a ton of stagger and destruction. So again, he jumps up first. So I'm applying DR through Sunsketch and Hopper shielding. Everyone got like 4 stacks at least. I got 5. And we're trying to bring him down to 145 lines. Notice how I use my skills there. So he slammed the ground, which means he's going to do the second slam. And so I waited to use my Sunsketch there to not get knocked in the air. If you don't have that, use spacebar, of course. You can time your skills so that you don't have to burn a spacebar there. If you have push immunity in your kit, if you have a good grasp of which skills provide you push immunity and process immunity, you can abuse them like that. 145 lines, so this is going to be the last pattern. There's no that is supposed to be a counter mech, but before 145 lines, he doesn't do a counter. Moving to the center, trying to build whatever gauge I can during this. He's DR'd. He takes less damage during this pattern, so it's not a damage pattern, but it's a gauge building pattern indeed. See, in this case, we didn't use the ping tech because like we're all on Discord too, because it's Fast, Saint, and Lustboy. But see how I can tell where the pillars spawn? I see here that it spawned at 12, and so since it's not going to spawn in this general area, I can move downwards. And see, I notice it's spawned at 3 o'clock, and then it's 6, so the last one is around 9. So 12, 3, 6, 9. Still trying to build gauge. It aggroed onto me. Second one, 2. The third one, someone else. They're aiming it. Foss is aiming it. 6, and then 9. Last one. Keep moving so that you don't get hit by the puddles. Corrosive in, and then try to use destruction skills. The priority is destruction here, but like if you can try to fit in attack buffs. Oh, that was the grab pattern. Yeah, if you can fit in like offensive stuff like attack buff and mark and all and identity buff, do that because people are going to use their skills anyways. That tracked onto me. So that's a grab, so it's going to aim towards a pillar, but in this case there was no pillar, so it aimed at somewhere random. Luckily, I think it was Lost Boy. He countered. Yeah, there was no pillar on the map because generally he aims it towards a pillar. Lost Boy countered. And that was the finishing on the destruction. So now he's tame. So now it's a mega DPS pattern. I know these guys are goblins, so I'm not giving them heals. Spacebar out of the fling. Trying to give as many identity buffs as I can. And this guy's size is exactly the size of the new puddle. I just try to plant it on the center, on his center. I negated the paralysis. He pushes you backwards, paralyzes you backwards when he does that fling there, when he's tame. And it becomes a push when he has his horns. But I negated that using Hopper, as you can see. Now he's growing horns, so he's going to do a fling frontward, so don't stand in his front. That's a fling. And so see, I spacebarred into him because I knew that he was going to fling people outwards. See Lost Boy getting flung outwards like that, and then it continues with yellow telegraphs exploding outwards. Punch, punch. Now he's going to do the big fling. So if you want to get in the water, now is a good chance. Spacebar in. So use like something push immunity wise to negate the push if you don't want to go in the water. Generally people spacebar, of course. Slam means that he's going to do a second slam. But he got staggered there. He's going to do a second slam. Got staggered though. It's a good damage window. Trying to build identity buff. He's going to face soon, so this is going to be his last pattern likely. He's aiming a laser onto Lustboy over there, so he like dodges it. Meanwhile, everyone else is DPSing. This is a gauge building pattern for me. I don't have my awakening, so it's great to use it here if you can, but if you don't have it, no worries. Just use shielding. See how that fast guy. Okay, so like his back position is safe when he does that, but you need to know whether to go to his over here or over here, or like sometimes he does a 180. But Foss noticed that it was going to be a 90 degrees spin, so he went over here and dodged the attack. That's the actual way to do it, but we're just too lazy for that, and we just like rely on support DR and shielding. Now we're trying to get the stagger done. I use my holy brush, and we all get knocked. Get out. You have to get knocked in this phase, or else you die. And now it's goblin time. Trying to build 2 bubbles. I have my awakening up, so I use it right there. I'm going to follow up my identity buff up. Sun sketch into identity buff, and I avoid the fling. That's the John Cena. That's the fire, big fire. Sidestep it, unless you want the stacks. Slam once, he's gonna slam a second time. Oh, I didn't spacebar that. That's the laser. Now under 45 lines is a triple laser. Make sure you don't get hit by that. That hurts a lot. And yeah. %, not bad. For Paladin, using that Executor of Justice skill, is it? That's not it. The Punishment skill. Yeah, Punishment skill here is a very good idea for the extra stagger and destruction, just because destruction is really important here. And yeah, you want to take 2 blue skills at least so that you can dish out counter stagger and destruction. So like you can use your Holy Sword for countering and then follow it up with the destruction on Executor Sword. And again here, Fat Shield Tripod works very well. There's only one thing that you need to purify, but people shouldn't get hit by that in the first place. Holy Protection and Godsend Law to allow people to tank the puddles, the fire puddles, so that they can stack the gauge up. I avoid the land, attack buff, mark, and identity buff. Nice taunt from the Gunlancer. This boss is tauntable, so Gunlancer crazy good here. He's aggro onto the Gunlancer. He's going to aim it towards the closest wall. And we do have Dark Bomb in. And with that one identity buff, we're able to push it down to 145 lines. I use my Awakening here so that I get it off cooldown and get the gauge. 12, 3, 6, 9. Yeah, I go around in circles so that I know where the pillars are there. I ping it for the team because like I only have 80k in call with me. And then 6, and then 9. It's not me, so I can try to move. If you're not the aggro person, try to move out so that it doesn't spawn too many blue puddles in. Corrosive in. My only destruction skill in. But we do manage to get it because we have a, I think it's a red Gunlancer. Yeah, red Gunlancer. And Shadow Hunter also has a lot of destruction, right? I don't know what the third class is. He doesn't do a second slam because his horns are off. Huge DPS pattern here. Laser pattern. Aimed on the Gunlancer. He just tanks it with combat radiance. Okay. As a red Gunlancer? Oh yeah, Gunlancer Awakening huge here because it's a free DPS pattern. Just because of that. On Paladin, you don't have the luxury of push immunity. So that's why I moved out of that after seeing that he's going to do the fling. You have to adapt. Yeah, so I see him in this posture, so I just move out of it and then go back in. Paladin life. Spacebar out of it so that I don't get flung by the dash. Oh, he does a second. Oh, wow, how did he avoid that? So we were supposed to aim the dash into the pillar, but somehow Mr. Cow lost some weight or something. Didn't hit. I should have hit. What the hell? Okay. Yeah. Because yeah, if you aim him into the pillar, that's destruction. Okay, we got him staggered though. So damage window, identity buff popped. Awakening followed up, trying to build up gauge. Spacebar into him, it's not getting knocked. Fire in the front. Waiting for identity buff. The reason I'm not using identity buff here is because people got flung, right? So they're not here to benefit from the buff. See how like small details like that add up. Because I see someone getting flung, I only have 1 DPS. If I wasn't attentive, I would have used my identity buff right away, which would have been a waste. Yeah, I'll wait for my team to get back in. Oh, see? So it's the first slam, and then he does a second slam, right? But you have to adapt if you don't have push immunity on Paladin. Identity, when you turn it on, is a push immunity skill. So I abuse that. That's the fling. Someone got flung, so it didn't lead up into a counter. And someone got grabbed. So you see how I knew it was going to aim towards either this pillar or this pillar over here? So once I noticed that he was getting grabbed, I was in position. And I'm already casting Holy Sword. Because Holy Sword, several procs of counter. See? I got the counter. You need to know what the counters are to open up those destruction windows and damage windows. Now he's bringing out the huge pillar, so this is a great gauge building time while doing stagger. Dash, forward dash. Oh, I got hit once, so second one's gonna hit even harder on me. I'm trying to be careful. He spawns small puddles that give you stacks here, and then at the end, they explode. Nice, we got the stagger done. It looks really easy here, but it's because we have a gun lancer. Generally, a lot of parties, because they're also trying to avoid the things, will end up using the entirety of this circle. Trying to build more gauge. Someone got flung, so he didn't lead it into a counter. Now it's a dash pattern, so you're trying to aim it towards one of the pillars. I already threw corrosive, so like immediately as I noticed that he was going to dash into the pillar, I already threw corrosive. And now we're trying to get any destruction that we can into him. He did get destroyed, and so generally he's supposed to phase at 45, but if he loses his horns, then he doesn't phase immediately. He does his entire tame phase before going. I reuse Awakening because now you can as Paladin. It fills up 70%-ish of your gauge bar. Slam with no horns does not lead into... I move slightly out of it because he's going to fling someone. If I was flung here, it would have been problematic because it would lead into this 47 line stagger mech. And I have to be in the water for this. And the timing would have been kind of difficult if I were trying to get in, out of it. If I got flung at that point. I'm waiting for my party to cast attack buff, making sure that everyone's here. Attack buff in, identity buff in, dark bomb in. Now it's damage window. He's lying down there for quite a long time. He still has horns. So first slam leads into second one, unless he does a back step like that, in which case it's a fire breath. If you want to get gauge, that's one way to get it. The John Cena. That's the first slam into the second one. So ready to spacebar in, spacebarred. Attack buff. Slow spin means laser. Triple laser because it's under 45. It's locked onto the gun lancer. Spacebar the fling there. Because if it's a fast spin, then it's going to knock you to the ground. See how I spacebarred? And then Awakening. And then done. And that was a counter move at the end, but I knew it was going to die anyways. Yeah, how to get Radiant. So gate 4. First off, you need Destruction Bomb. Everyone needs Destruction Bomb. I mean, you can do it without, but it's just way cleaner if everyone takes Destruction. And you need a lot of Stagger and Destruction as well for this gate. Otherwise, it's like there's so many ways you can wipe here from lack of Stagger and Destruction. So yeah, I take this setup. Rhythm Buckshot, very good for that one destruction point, and the sudden counters that happen give you a lot of damage windows. And I choose to go for a double mark setup with Sound Shock and Sonatina. You can also take Soundholic if your party really lacks Stagger. Dark Bomb, Whirlwind Bomb also works, of course. Generally, people will take Whirlwind Bomb. If you're progging this, it's best if you just take Whirlwind Bomb for safety. And maybe have just one person take Dark Bomb. There we go. So we're going to push 260 lines first. I start with Heavenly Tune and Mark Skill. Sometimes he begins with a counter, so be prepared to deal with the counter if it happens. This is sort of a DPS window. If you're on a level though and not too experienced, don't try to DPS through this too much. Because like all these things hurt. It targets one person and it keeps throwing like these red telegraphs onto them, and then two other people receive these red telegraph circle explosions on them. I can tank it because I'm a support and I'm overgeared. And yeah. So identity buff. I try to tank things with sonic vibration, sound shock, awakening to tank the explosions, and the push immunity. This pattern is if you have a really experienced party and you're in comms, you can kind of tank everything, especially if you have support awakening on you. But generally, don't try to do that. Play it safe, so everyone runs into like a distant corner, kind of away from each other, and there's a 90-degree safe spot that appears behind. Make sure you wait for that telegraph to spawn before you turn around. It hurts a lot if you get hit by that. A barrel roll. And then that's a grab mech. If someone gets grabbed, he will fling them backwards and like do a Wi-Fi patterns. In this case, nobody got grabbed, so he's gonna throw a safe spot here. You have to go in there. And then from that safe spot, and a large eruption spreads outwards. That's a counter. Someone countered. Good. And this gate is kind of hectic because of all the telegraphs that happen from these card things. On top of having to dodge him. And also there's death by gravity here. If the tiles on the outwards are destroyed, then you can die from getting hit into them and fall down. Barrel roll. Uno, dos, tres. I tank that using Guardian Tune, so that if you get hit by that, it's you get knocked into the air. And the third one is a bit wider. And yeah, the cards spawn all these yellow telegraphs. You'll need to be able to know what's happening with the card mechs while you're dealing with this. This is the side dangerous pattern. You're trying to get it down to 160 lines. This is a counter mech. And if you fail this, some tiles get destroyed. So if there's DPSs, people that are like sitting in them, and then someone fails to deal with the counter, the tiles might get destroyed and the people standing on them will drop down. So it's very important that you deal with this specific counter here. Know the timing on it. Managed to drop it down to below 160. Now starts the dance, ×3 beginning position. 1, 2, you aim the cones. And the third one, you try to aim it towards the pillars, the cards, at ×3 locations. You move out of it once it's locked. It's like a dance. And between that, you can try to get gauge if you're a support, of course. If you get hit by these telegraphs, it gives you a debuff that lowers your attack power. I don't think it affects a support buff efficiency. So you can get hit by them as a support. If you're a DPS, try to avoid getting hit. You can, yeah, in this case, if it's this cone, you can sit right close to Lazaram and not get hit by the yellow ones. And then you just, like, it has to be like a very... yeah, it's kind of like dancing in a sense. You don't have to use spacebar for this. If you have a spacebar that's on very low cooldown, you can just keep using spacebar for the third one. And then you have to deal with stagger mechs, stagger checks on the center, first of all. And then, like, if possible, try to stagger the ones on the 1, 5, 7, 11 locations. What pugs will generally do is they either just say they're going to deal with one, and generally it's like 5 o'clock position. We try to prioritize the lower side ones because of field of vision. If you're trying to do it more organized and trying to get a second one as well, we'll do it in such a way that, like, say, party number 1 and 2 deal with 5 o'clock, and 3 and 4 deal with 7 o'clock, so you can get 2 pillars, 2 cards dealt with. See, if you succeed the stagger there, it revives the tile on that side. If you get hit by the red telegraph here, then he'll do an additional move like that. Who got hit there? Oh, it's this guy, I think. Oh, yeah. I think. It didn't seem like he got hit, though. That was the additional move. And then the B-boy. I call it the B-boy. When this cone fills up, if you're standing in it, you get trapped. You can spacebar into him to abuse the status immunity on the spacebar. You can also just spacebar out. Or I use Awakening in this case. And if you're sitting in these telegraphs, you also get trapped. So don't stand in them. And then he aims at one person. If there's someone who's trapped, they'll aim it towards that person. And he does like a cone thing with a safe spot in between. You can stand in that safe spot to not get knocked and not have to deal with the damage. You can stand in between those two. Now, this is the counter air raid. Okay, so this one can be very tricky to deal with. So here's how I do it, and it's very reliable. So first of all, he does this 3 times. Every time he starts by dishing out a puddle on everyone. So put that puddle somewhere in the center, and then move towards somewhere between 7, 6, 9, 5, 3. So like times 3 and times 3 plus 1 locations. There's like a indicator that is less towards the center. So if you look at the map here, these spots are dangerous, but the spots in between that are less protruded, those are safe spots to start with. It's not an entire safe spot. But the way you deal with it is, so you plant the puddle in the center, and then you move towards one of these locations. Okay, in this case, say, I'm standing here, but I'm going to get grabbed if I stand still. So immediately as I see him appear, and I see the telegraph, I move slightly on the right, so I don't get grabbed. So this is not an entire safe spot, but it allows you to move at as least as possible in order to not get grabbed. And then after the third one, he's going to spawn 4 clones, and you have to find the real one. The real one you can discern by looking at the HP bar. And he does a counter right afterwards. And you have to deal with that. That's the backwards flip. So I sidestep that, because if you get hit by that, you get knocked into the air. Sonic Vibration in the center. Nobody got hit. If you get hit by that, he does an additional pattern. Card spawning yellow stuff on the outwards, so try to fight him inside. Sideway dangerous. Now this is a big cone pattern. Don't stand in there. It hurts a lot, so try to move out. In certain cases, you have goblins and you want to let them DPS through that by providing them with shields. But yeah, generally don't try. If you're progging it, especially, don't try to tank that. This is the second B-boy. You have to avoid all the things, and then if possible, try to go into that purple telegraph he does at the end. He gives you a keyboard mech, a Vicus mech keyboard. If you get grabbed, and if you do succeed it's a free DPS pattern. Generally the support tries to get grabbed there, but if you're not in position to get grabbed, then preferably another DPS tries to get grabbed. In that case, he got staggered before the grab happened. It's kind of awkward. Every time he gets staggered, he gives you this destruction, and the destruction isn't too heavy. But if you do succeed the destruction, he gives you a few seconds of free DPS. And after that, he spawns a ball, and the closest person is targeted. And if you manage to aim the ball towards one of the destroyed tiles, then that tile is revived. So in that case, you can see all the DPSs were facing towards that broken tile so that the ball would explode towards that direction. Now the 110 line mech. Now the way to do this is it's 11223344 party number order. And the first guy deals with the first 2 stabs. Second guy deals with the third and fourth, and so on. You have to see if it's a real stab or a fake stab. If it's a real stab, you have to counter that card. That's a fake stab. He didn't stab it all the way through, so you don't deal with it. The second stab, that was a real stab, so you have to deal with the counter. If you counter something that's fake, then it's an explosion. It does a lot of damage. I was number 2 apparently, so I dealt with the third one, or not. Wait. Second. Third one. Oh, maybe this was an instance where we did times 3 plus 1. That's the other way to do it, but it's kind of inconsistent. Because the issue with doing the times 3 plus 1 is that there are cases where you get simultaneous counters, and so you'll have to fail one, which is not good. The safe way to do this is definitely the 11223344 strat. So while doing stagger in the center, you try to deal with the counters. If you have to deal with double counters, then like you'll have to navigate, for instance, from 11 to 3, and you can fit in like 1 or 2 skills while trying to move back and forth. But that's the safest way to do it because the counters occur in order rather than simultaneously if you do that. So we dealt with the stagger, and this is somewhere that a lot of prog parties will struggle with. This is kind of difficult to do when you're doing it at first. I guess now that we know how to deal with it, and we're gonna there's gonna be like guides and all, it'll be easier for you guys. For us, we didn't have a clue when we were doing it blind. We had to like get very lucky with the counter stats because you're trying to do it times 3 plus 1. Yellow telegraph from the card, so we move out of it. Moving out so that he doesn't do the stab thing. Additional. That's the Demon Slayer. Red telegraphs, avoid that. Air raid, Vicus air raid. He drops air raids twice, and when he's enraged, it's 3 times. Enraged meaning below 69s. And then he lands on 1 spot. Big yellow telegraph, it hurts a lot. That's the play ball mech. You have to kill the ball before it reaches the goal over here. Otherwise, it's a very big damage onto everyone. And then he rewards you with a short damage window there. Someone has to be standing in this circle here. Or else he does an annoying pattern afterwards. So someone has to be standing inside. I decided to tank it with Guardian Tune, but if you get hit by when he lands, it hurts and it can push you. Oh, so this is a pattern where if you can do it, try to process immune it. Because it's a free DPS pattern for like 1 or 2 seconds if you manage to tank it while he's doing that, but you get pulled inside, so try to use process immunity to not get pulled. But yeah, well, if you do that correctly, if someone is getting hit by that pattern, he does that stab thing in the front. If you get caught in the stab though, you get grabbed and you get flung into a yellow telegraph. It can hurt. We got staggered right before the 69 mech, so destruction in. And then at 69, you have to be very careful. You need to be aware of where you need to go. It's ×3. And you need to throw a destruction bomb. You need to do this really quick. Because when the cards explode after getting destroyed, they give you a huge stagger buff. This is the stagger buff here. Text popping up. And that is crucial when trying to deal with the center stagger. Now, after the center stagger, he gives you a destruction here. And it's not a high point destruction, but in a lot of cases, proc parties will fail because, first of all, they didn't throw destruction bomb quick enough. Second, they don't have enough stagger. And third, they blew up all their stagger skills that have destruction on them, so they don't have destruction skills left. And then one person gets assigned the line. Generally, it's one of the DPSs. We assign that beforehand. And that person is responsible for flinging party mates into one of the cards, the portals that have spawned from the cards. We go in order. So we assign that beforehand as well. It's usually DPS and then support and then DPS. The order. The way you get grabbed here, and you have to get grabbed, is he spawns 3 puddles beneath your feet. So you have to keep moving. And meanwhile, I'm trying to get gauge. After the second puddle drops, it's safe to go in. Because the third one, if you get grabbed here, so see, there's a puddle that spawns, the third one spawns beneath my feet. But I get grabbed before it hits. So after the second one, just go immediately into his front so that you get grabbed. And the third puddle gets negated by the grab. After you're in, you have to deal with one of 3 guardians. This time it's Virtus. And if you get the stagger bar done quickly, this becomes much easier. You get the stagger done. Opportune because the third DPS comes in. I blow my identity buff. And there's also counter patterns here, so like try to be aware of trying to get the counters. There's a ticking time. It's like an Argosy time. You have to kill this guardian before this time ends. If you manage to do that, you get out, and then one person has to get grabbed, and then the other 3 will deal with the stagger here. Any moment here, if you fail any of these steps, it's a wipe pretty much. Although it's not difficult, you have to do everything is the issue. Gate 4 can be difficult in that sense. If you like fail one thing, it's a wipe. Now I'm trying to bring him down to 40 lines. At 40 lines, we get a big damage window. I used Youngming beforehand, but I'm trying to build gauge if possible. And if I have a stimulant remaining, I'll try to use that stimulant for the 40 line phase because it's a huge damage window. Counter, and a ball has been spawned, a black hole. If this is not eaten by someone, some tiles will get destroyed. So see, I'm trying to get the ball. Now, one thing about this ball is that if you eat it without being status immune, then you get trapped in position. And other people will have to free you. So make sure you try to eat it with spacebar, or in the case of Bard, you have Guardian Tune. So if you apply Guardian Tune to yourself, then you can just go walk into it. One thing about Bard's spacebar, though, is that if you try to spacebar into it from too close, then I think it registers as like a blink spacebar. So it doesn't absorb the ball. So when you're trying to eat this ball, right? And this is the tell for the ball spawning. Try to eat it at the very end of the spacebar. Like this. Because if you try to eat it in the middle of the spacebar, sometimes it doesn't register. It's very important to know. Now 40 line, it's a huge damage window. If you have a Princess Maker Gunlaster, you can take care of like 2-3 of these cards on the cardinals. If you deal with them and the tiles won't destroy on the cardinal positions. And it's a huge damage window. And in our over DPS party, over geared party, we managed to bring down 10 lines from that. So if you have Dark Bomb, use that. Identity buff, use that. Attack buff and mark and all. Demon Slayer. Try spacebar out when he flings and dashes. Everyone tries to move out for this one. Someone screwed up over there. And that might have... that guy was in a dangerous spot. I tanked that using Sonic Vibration. So he's going to give us an extra damage window here. A few seconds. But it's good. As long as nobody's standing in front. See how I tanked it with Sonic Vibration. I could have used Wind of Music as well. And Buckshot and whatnot. Barrel roll. Now that he's angry, below 60 lines, he's very angry. And every few seconds, there's like an AoE explosion that deals a lot of damage. So it's very important as a support to keep people shielded and heal them if they need it. Again, it's the counter air raid. So as I said before, plant the puddles in the center and go to one of the not protruding spots. Oh, I was like outside. So see how much damage you can take if you're outside of the circle here? I was like slightly outside. It was my toe. It's just so much damage, even on my overgeared character. Now I'm trying to find the real one. So these two have full HP, so they're not the one. So it's one of these two over here. So I'm moving upwards, and I find that this one has low HP. So this is the real one. Counter. Into Mark, into Attack Buff, into Awakening. 2 bubbles. Do I use it? Yeah, 2 bubbles. It's gonna die soon. And this one, he aggroes onto one person after like turning 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th one is aggro onto someone. So if you know that you're the aggro, try to not move it too much so that others don't have to move. After it locks on, move out. And if you get stabbed by that, he flings you in a yellow telegraph and it hurts. But yeah. %31. Okay, let's go into artists. Again, take Destruction Bomb. And I mean, this is a Goblin setup because I'm with the Goblin team. But Portal, it's better if you take out Portal for... I mean, in this case, yeah, you'd have Sprinkle and Tiger and Inkwall. It's just because Stagger, Destruction are really important here. So you want to take as much as you can. I know I'm in good hands here because everyone's experienced, and we're in Discord as well. But like if I'm pugging it, it's better if I don't take risks and just take as much Stagger and Destruction as possible. Opening up with Carpet into Sun Sketch, spacebar in case there's a counter move that he begins with. That's a counter move. Counter. And then Sunwell. Waiting for the identity buff to run out, and then I use Sun Sketch. I don't use identity buff immediately because it's not a damage window. Waiting. And then Carpet into identity buff. Now, since nobody got grabbed because we're all goblins, he does an ensuing mech there. Yellow pattern, so just avoid that. It's better though in general if you get grabbed. If someone gets grabbed and you profit off that free damage window. I got caught in the Demon Slayer. Identity buff, that's a counter. Fast deals with it. Sunwell. Yeah, like whenever those patterns happen. You just have to be in a safe spot. If you get hit in by those and you get flung into one of the broken tiles, then it's a death. You have to be aware of how to avoid those things. 160 lines. We go into position, dance position. Number 3. I'm trying to get gauge. The third one, you aim it in toward the cardinal card. Third one, move inside and then move slightly to the side. You don't have to spacebar do anything, but like just to be safe, it's better if you spacebar if you can. And then waiting for the stagger bar to open. Using stagger skills. And we go to 5 o'clock. And now, attack buff Yongmeng. Someone deals with the counter. Nice. Carpet in. Tiger. Sunwell. Rotating attack buffs. And I do have my awakening up, so I'm trying to use it soon. Without wasting bubbles. Yongmeng into awakening. Into Sunwell. Indeed. Oh, it slightly moves backwards. I should have positioned it where he's gonna backstep. Play ball mech, identity buff, carpet, and attack buff were all in. That's also a decent time to use dark bomb if you have it, because you can both aim the ball and Lazaram himself to make the ball phase easier and then profit off the damage window that ensues afterwards. Sun sketch. See, that's a pattern that can push you backwards, but I tanked it using Tiger. I think that has process muti. Uno, dos, and then tres. Tres is the one you really want to avoid. Sun sketch. And then yellow telegraph thing. Try to get out of that. Barrel roll, counter. Sun sketch. Identity buff. Avoid the yellow telegraph. So you see, like, since this is a broken tile, right? If you get hit here, if this guy gets hit here, he's gonna die. Let's see him get out. Safety first. I don't give heals because they're all goblins. That's the counter pattern that you have to succeed. Otherwise, tiles are gonna break. I think I was pretty on point with that counter, but Foss somehow managed to steal it away from me. Sun sketch, damage window because of that counter success. And the 110 line mech. So we go to the center. I was number 3, so I'm gonna deal with the number 6 and 7, 5 and 6. Uno, dos. I'm trying to build gauge while dishing out stagger. And I'm counting in my mind. 3, 4, and then the next 2 are mine. Oh yeah, I screwed it up. I took number 4. I remember this. I screwed it up. We managed to get the stagger here? Maybe it's a wipe. Yeah, I think it's a wipe. Yeah, okay. Because I counted wrong in my head. That's what happens if you fail the stagger mech. If you don't do it in the right order. So always keep a mental note while you're trying to get gauge and stagger in the center. Sunwell onto carpet, and then move out and then back in. Identity buff. Sunwell. And that's the what should we call this? Find a safe spot, basically. 2 people get dealt telegraphs underneath them, and then a few seconds later, a telegraph that hurts will spawn underneath them. So whoever got the 2 telegraphs need to go outside so that the other 2 can keep doing damage. The second guy will spawn a safe spot at the very end of this. So if you know the order, you can ping for your teammates where you're going to be standing. So uno, and then another set of telegraphs are dealt. And then one of the remaining guys gets dealt a red telegraph underneath them. They have to poop outside, and then we all try to converge. If you can ping where you're going after knowing that you are the second telegraph guy, you know that a safe spot is going to spawn underneath you. If you ping it, people will converge onto you. And this can hurt if you get hit. Barrel roll backwards. No, not barrel roll. Backwards flip. Demon Slayer. Identity buff along with Sunwell. Always be aware that he might do very sudden counters. Support, try to err towards his front. I got hit. Ah, what am I doing? Okay. We hit 160 lines, so the yellow telegraph explosion got cancelled. Uno, dos, tres, move towards him. Try to build gauge if you can. Like that. You can fit in like one skill every time you land a telegraph. Uno, dos, and then tres. For the onion ring, you go inside and then move towards him and then slightly sidestep it. I don't know what I'm doing here. Central stagger and then stagger at 5 o'clock. Identity buff going in. That's the DPS window. If you're a goblin, it's the DPS window. Moving out. Oh, right. Well, when he does this pattern, he spawns a lot of spikes on the ground that move. And if you get hit by those can hurt a lot. See Saint over here? He's trying to dodge them, but he gets hit like 1 or 2. And look at his health. He almost died there. Those can hurt a lot. Play ball. Identity buff. Attack buff. Carpet all in. Trying to build more gauge. Identity buff back in. Backflip. The front and back are dangerous for that one. Grab mech. Nobody got grabbed. He's going to fling a safe spot and move out of it and then go back in. Avoid the eruptions. You technically, you don't have to go in the safe spot. So like because it's an outwards moving eruption, you can stand outside and then spacebar inside. There's some goblin strats. Demon Slayer, try to aim him towards the center so that you can have free DPS there. Barrel roll. Counter. $110 lines have been reached, but we got a stagger check. Induced and then destruction. People moved out at the right timing so that the ball would be aimed towards me, and I revived this tile over here. Now let's don't mess this up. Uno, fake one, so don't counter. Second, true stagger, true counter. Third one, fake. Only 2 are fake out of the 8, so the remaining ones are all true ones. True counters. And then that's number 4. 5, true counter. Like, I don't even have to look at it. I know that it's a real counter. And this is how you navigate if you're trying to counter from 2 opposite spots. You have more time than you think, so you can fill in like 2 skills. Counter. 1 or 2, depending. And if you've succeeded a lot of counters there, you get increased stagger. It makes it very easy to deal with the remaining stagger in the center. Counter. Someone dealt with it. Good. Build gauge. Sun sketch. Identity buff. I'm using Hopper to not get pulled in and to trigger the damage window there. Carpet. This is the second B-boy. And I don't get grabbed. These goblins are trying to damage through that. Oh, I tried to greed for a skill pattern and got hit. Oh, wow, that hurts a lot. We're almost at 60 lines. Barrel roll. That's the Devil Jin. ×3 Destruction Bomb. And then stagger in center. I use upward stroke, whatever stack skills I have. That was really close. That might have been a fail. Destruction going in, and then whoever gets the line. Yep. So DPS support DPS. Uno, dos, and then you can go in. Tres. Saint goes in. Foss flings him to one of the portals. And then I'm still trying to build gauge. Uno, dos, and then tres I go in. After the second one, you can go in. This time it's Calventus. It's Legioros, Virtus, and Calventus. The 3 guardians. Now that Lust Boy is in, I give like buffs and all. Identity buff. I was waiting for him to come. Stagger check induced. And we finish him off. One guy has to get caught here. And he always grabs either at 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock position. So stand like in between and prepare to get grabbed. One person has to get grabbed here. And then the remaining 3 do stagger. Some people even fail the stagger check here, some teams. If you feel like you don't have enough stagger in your party, definitely take roll-in bombs. Now you're trying to bring him down to 40 lines. It's a air raid counter. So poop in the center, go to one of the safe spots, and slightly move if it's spawning where you are. Like that, like that. You keep standing there, you get grabbed. So you have to move like that. Yeah, perfect. Counter. Real one because it's the one with the low HP. Staying inside, moving out, and then moving back in to avoid the yellow telegraph. Explosion. 40 lines has been reached, so it's a free DPS window in the center. Trying to get gauge. This Dark Bomb is also in. Sunwell. Carpet applied again. Uno, dos, tres, and the 4th one aims onto someone. Stagger, destruction, free DPS window. You don't need to aim the ball here because you're going to die soon. It's better to profit fully from the damage window here. And of course, as support, keep shielding people so that they don't lose too much HP from the exploding AoEs every like 10 seconds-ish. %. Last one, Paladin. Again, it's great if you can take I keep forgetting what's it called? Punishment? Yeah, punishment. If your party lacks stagger and destruction. So that would be a 3 blue skill setup, and you take out Light of Judgment. But yeah, since Light of Judgment is very crucial on the gauge gain, if your party has enough destruction and stagger, try to keep it. Anyways, Whirlwind Bomb, unless your party is experienced enough or has enough stagger, and Destruction Bomb needed, and Stimulant. And Fat Shield Tripod can help a lot here on Holy Protection. Attack buff and mark in. Taunted. Gunlash is so good here because he's tauntable. This guy's tauntable. It's insane. Air Raid, which screws up my Holy Aura, but okay. Attack buff, mark into Awakening. Light of Judgment. Dodging out of the backflip. I used Holy Aura, but he goes immune again. Attack buff, reapplied mark as well. See how I dodged that? So like he does a frontwards fling when he does that first. So frontwards fling, so I slightly sidestep it, and then his side is dangerous, so I go back to his front. Positioning is key on Paladin, and you always try to aim to err towards his front so that you can fish for those counters. That was the backflip, so I slightly sidestepped it. Counter. Yeah, he does very sudden counters like that. Counter. The executioner's sword. Executor's sword. Counter. Holy Sword is really good here because you can just pre-cast it and you don't have to care about the timing. 169s. Get in position for the dance. Avoid twice. Trying to fit in gauge building skills. Uno. Dos. Tres. And then move in. Hug him. I did get hit there, but I'm a support, so it doesn't matter. Even with the attack power down debuff, it's like whatever. I should have hugged in more. Stagger. Attack buff. I did use my identity buff right away, but it's best if you can just wait for one pattern to see if he's like going immune, like when he's doing those air raid counters or air raid or whatnot. Counter. Attack buff. Mark. Play ball. Attack buff applied. And then after I'm done applying mark and attack buff, I use awakening to get the identity buff for this damage window right here. That's a grab. So he spins his head, so you have to be careful. And then you go into safe spot. And I see what I did. So I noticed that one guy was trying to goblin over here. So I shielded him. Godsend Law. So he didn't get hit. Because that thing is supposed to hurt a lot. You need to have good awareness. So this is what happens. Yeah, exactly. So you need to try to hit it on the tip. Paladin spacebar too does that. You have to try to hit the ball at the very end, at the tip of the spacebar. So I should have moved a bit backwards and the spacebar into it. Someone ate it though. Very nice. Moving out of the telegraphs. Counter. Counter in. Always be wary about those very sudden counters as a support. It's your duty to be the primary counter. Avoid spikes. You can also stack up like this, although it's kind of dangerous in a sense. Because like if something goes wrong, you can get hit by two of these at the same time. Stagger. We go to the destruction. I turned on identity buff because this is a huge damage window. But they didn't goblin hard enough. Uno, true. Dos, false. Tres, true. Cuatro, true. Cinco, true. Seis, false. So I only have to do it with the 9 o'clock counter. I try to use Holy Sword so that it hits the counter and also staggers him in the center. And then we finish off the stagger. Identity buff on because it's a slight damage window unless he decides to go immune right afterwards, moving out of it. Third one hurts and is a bit wider. Devil Jin. Avoiding all the telegraphs. Counter. Holy Sword counter. Backflip. Front is also unsafe. Yellow Telegraphs on the bottom. Demon Slayer. Mark reapplied. Attack buff. That's the B-Boy. Second B-Boy. Purple Telegraph. Gunlancer got grabbed. And someone else too. Oh shit, I was standing on the edge there. I got flung. That's the air raid counter. Poop in the center and go to a safe spot. Poop in the center, go to a safe spot. Good. And now look for the real one. 3 o'clock. Counter it. Backflip. Slightly. Oh, I got hit by that. Oh, alright, because it's slightly tilted towards one side. Front stab means it's either a circular safe spot or a safe spot behind them. It's one of the two. If someone gets stabbed by that, it's an additional move he does. Aim it towards one of the broken tiles. And then it's at 60 lines. Always be aware when he hits 60 lines, go Destruction Bomb. Everyone needs to do it on time and then stagger. And then Destruction. So I left my Executioner Sword, Executor Sword, on there on purpose so that I could use Destruction. Because I knew that we have enough stagger from Gunlancer. Like I could make that choice. I'm trying to build a bit of gauge there to finish off building my identity. I don't need to. But since I can. And then the Gunlancer flings me. Now I'm waiting for the other DPS to arrive before using my identity. Identity buff to avoid getting pushed. Oh, he moved out. Mark reapplied. Attack buff. Mark reapplied. If you can get the stagger done, it makes it easier, but I didn't focus too much on stagger there. Damage done, and then someone's gonna get grabbed. Striker. I think that's Saint. So he's standing at 9, so that he can move towards 9 or 7. Depending on which side he airs to. Identity buff opened up as soon as the stagger is done. We're trying to get him to 40 lines. If we push it really fast, then it immediately pushes to the center, and that's a ensuing free damage window. So I have my stimulant potion ready. And I use it a second Holy Aura. We try to push it down. The faster you can push here makes the last part easy to do. That was a counter. Mark and attack buff reapplied. Use spacebar out of that. Or you can also walk out of it. Don't stand in one of those, yeah. Because that happens. And they die. 80k died. Backflip. Oh, taunt. Nice. If you know the taunt timings as a Gunlancer, it makes you look really cool. Because you can cancel a lot of annoying patterns here. I dark bombed alongside the ball and Lazaram. Okay. We got rid of the ball, and now we're trying to finish him off. Shielded right before the AoE happened. Counter. I spacebarred just in case. See, because I know that it was a counter directed towards Saint, but he did have his counter ready. I spacebarred just in case. Everything hurts here. A lot. It looks very easy like this. But you can die from anything here. The Gunlancer got hit by that. Even that can hurt. Or you can manage to kill it. If you get hit by that, it's an additional pattern. And 30%. Anyways, that was it for Voldis support commentary, how to get Radiant. I tried to explain my thought process while dealing with the gate, and I did that for all 3 supports. Hopefully that sheds a bit of light on what you should do as a support and how to aim for those high Radiant numbers. And I'll see you in another video.